Hello, welcome back to another evening of shared stories and deep dives. Tonight, we are spending a couple of hours with one of the most methodical, calculating characters ever put on television. We are not covering his darkest moments, we are not ranking his biggest mistakes. Tonight, it is all about the smartest plays. The times Dexter Morgan was operating at full capacity when his forensic training, his father's code, and his own predatory instincts all lined up perfectly. And the results were honestly kind of beautiful to watch. If you have never seen the show, do not worry, I am going to walk you through everything. And if you are a longtime fan, I think you will still find some stuff here that you have maybe forgotten or never thought about in quite this way. There's a lot to cover. 8 seasons of the original series, plus New Blood, plus Original Sin. We are talking about a character who operated as a serial killer inside the Miami Metro Police Department for years and years and years, and nobody figured it out. Well, almost nobody. And how he dealt with those almosts is where some of the best moments come from. So if you like what I do here and want to support the channel, consider subscribing down below. But for now, settle in, dim the lights if you have not already, maybe get under a blanket, and let us start at the very beginning, with a system designed to make a serial killer uncatchable. Before we talk about any of the specific genius moments across the series, we need to understand the foundation that everything else is built on. Because Dexter Morgan's intelligence is not the flashy kind. He is not sitting in a dark room playing chess against himself or giving monologues about how many steps ahead he is. His intelligence is operational. It is a system. And that system has a name. It is called the Code of Harry. So here's the backstory. Dexter was born Dexter Moser. When he was about 3 years old, he and his older brother Brian witnessed their mother, Laura Moser, being murdered with a chainsaw inside a shipping container. She was a confidential informant for the Miami police, and the drug dealers she was informing on found out and killed her. Both boys were left sitting in inches of their mother's blood for days before they were found. That kind of trauma does things to a person. Brian, who was older and remembered more, eventually became a serial killer himself. The ice truck killer who would show up in season 1. But Dexter, who was younger, was adopted by the responding officer Harry Morgan and his wife Doris. Harry was a well-respected cop, a detective with the Miami Metro Police Department, and he raised Dexter and his biological daughter Deborah as siblings. Now, pretty early on, Harry started noticing things. A dog named Buddy went missing. Harry found the grave. And in the grave, there were not just the dog's bones. There were other bones too. Harry realized that his adopted son had violent urges that went far beyond normal childhood behavior. And here is where the story takes a turn that defines the entire series. Instead of having Dexter institutionalized, instead of turning him over to therapists or the authorities, Harry made a decision. He decided to train Dexter, to channel those urges into something that at least had a moral framework, even if it was way outside the law. That framework became the Code of Harry. And the code has 2 core rules. Rule 1, do not get caught. Rule 2, only kill people who deserve it, specifically murderers who have escaped the justice system through corruption, technicalities, or just plain incompetence. But the code goes way deeper than 2 rules. It is an entire operating manual for how to live a double life. Harry taught Dexter how to fake normal human interactions. He taught him to smile, to make small talk, to feign interest in other people's lives, to date, to hold down a job, to appear completely unremarkable. Dexter himself says in the very first episode, and I am paraphrasing here, that he does not know what made him the way he is, but whatever it was left a hollow place inside. He says he fakes a lot of human interactions and he fakes them very well. That is his burden. But he does not blame his foster parents for it. Harry and Doris Morgan did a wonderful job raising him. The operational side of the code is incredibly detailed. Before killing anyone, Dexter has to confirm their guilt with actual evidence, not suspicion, not a gut feeling, proof. He stalks his targets for days, sometimes weeks, learning their habits, their routines, their schedules, the best time and place to capture them. He uses a lockpick to break into their homes and search the premises. He finds evidence that they are guilty and he verifies it. Only then does he move forward, and the kill itself follows a strict ritual. Dexter prepares what the show calls a kill room. He completely wraps the space in clear plastic tarpaulin so that no blood, no sweat, no fingerprints, no fibers leave any forensic trace. He decorates the room with evidence or photos of his victim's crimes. He straps the victim to a table using shrink wrap. He shows them what they did, he makes them see it, and then he makes a small cut on their cheek with a scalpel and collects a single drop of blood on a glass microscope slide. A trophy, 1 slide per kill. Those slides were kept hidden in his apartment, inside the casing of his air conditioning unit. We see this in the very first episode. Dexter comes home, goes straight to the AC unit, pulls out the blood slide box, and carefully places his newest slide next to the others. It is this quiet, private little ritual that is honestly a bit unsettling, but also shows you how meticulous this guy is. Every kill accounted for, every trophy cataloged. After the kill, Dexter dismembers the body. He uses a set of knives, a surgical power saw, and a kit of surgical instruments. He places the sections in heavy-duty black garbage bags, loads them into his car, transfers them to his boat, a fishing vessel called the Slice of Life, adds rocks to weigh down the bags, seals them with duct tape, and dumps them in the ocean. Specifically, he targets an oceanic trench. When scuba divers accidentally discover this underwater graveyard in Season 2, Dexter adapts. He starts taking bodies farther offshore into the Gulf Stream, which carries the remains out into the North Atlantic. No rocks needed, the current does the work. And the thing that makes all of this possible, the thing that elevates it from just being careful to being genuinely brilliant, is Dexter's day job. He works as a blood spatter analyst for the Miami Metro Police Department's Homicide Division. He is literally an expert in analyzing the evidence left behind at crime scenes. He knows exactly what the police look for because he is one of the people who looks for it. He has access to police databases, forensic equipment, active case files, suspect information, crime scene photos. He can run DNA tests, match fingerprints, analyze blood patterns, and pull up anyone's criminal history at his desk. Think about that for a second. The best possible cover for a serial killer is not some unrelated job where nobody asks questions. The best possible cover is being the guy who analyzes the evidence, because you know exactly what mistakes to avoid. You know exactly what investigators prioritize. You know when they're getting warm and when they are chasing the wrong lead. Dexter is not hiding from the investigation. He is inside it, and it gets even better, because he is not just passively sitting at his desk. Dexter actively uses his position to further his kills. He pays attention to unsolved cases that come across his desk. He watches court hearings. He notices when suspects get off on technicalities. He runs forensic tests in his own lab to confirm guilt. He even had a friend named Camilla Fig who helped him access files on killers who had been released due to judicial mistakes. He treats Miami Metro like his own personal target. Acquisition system. Now here is something that I think a lot of people overlook. The code was not just Harry's creation. We find this out much later, in Season 8, when a woman named Dr. Evelyn Vogel shows up in Miami. Vogel is a neuropsychiatrist who specializes in psychopaths. She reveals to Dexter that she was the one who helped Harry create the code. She had been consulting with Harry since Dexter was a child. She was the one who convinced Harry that Dexter's urges could not be stopped but could be focused. She helped design the framework. The code was not improvised parenting. It was a calculated psychological intervention designed by a professional who specialized in exactly this kind of mind. Vogel explains that when Harry first brought Dexter to her, she realized immediately that the boy showed all the classic traits of a psychopath. She knew he would eventually become a killer. The question was not if, but when and what form it would take. She convinced Harry that hunting animals was never going to be enough. So together they came up with the idea of teaching Dexter to kill other kinds of animals, people who truly deserved to die. It was Vogel's idea to devise the code. Harry handled the details because of his law enforcement background, but the conceptual framework was hers. Dexter does not take this well when he finds out. He accuses Vogel of experimenting on him, but she defends her actions by pointing out the alternative. Without the code, Dexter would have ended up in an institution or on death row. The code did not create a monster, it redirected one. What I find fascinating about all of this is that Dexter's intelligence is essentially running on software designed by two people: a cop who knew how the justice system worked and where its blind spots were, and a psychologist who understood the mind of a predator. The code is not just a set of morals, it is an algorithm. And when Dexter follows it precisely, he is nearly uncatchable. The problems only ever start when he deviates, when emotions he is not supposed to have start interfering with the system. One more thing about the code before we move on, and this is a detail that I love. Remember those blood slides, the trophies? Dexter kept them for years. They were his record, his private archive. But in Season 2, when divers found his underwater graveyard and the Bay Harbor Butcher investigation kicked off, the slides became a liability. They were physical evidence linking him to every kill. The slides nearly destroyed him in that season and continued to cause problems all the way into Season 7. And there is this moment in Season 7, after a killer named Ray Speltzer escapes Dexter once and then murders another woman, that Dexter tracks Speltzer down to a cemetery, knocks him out with a shovel, drags him to a crematorium, and kills him. But here's the key part. Before doing it, Dexter tells Speltzer something. He says, "Normally now is when I would slice your cheek with my scalpel and get a drop of blood to remember you by. But I cannot risk anyone finding a bloodslide ever again. I do things different now. The memory of killing you will have to be enough." And then he burns Speltzer's body along with his entire bloodslide box, the whole collection. Years of trophies, gone. He burns them in the crematorium because he has learned. The code adapts, the system updates. And that, honestly, is a kind of intelligence that goes beyond just being clever. It is the willingness to let go of something deeply personal because the risk calculation changed. And then Dexter calls Deborah. She arrives, and he tells her that the smoke rising from the crematorium chimney is Speltzer. She stares at it and asks, "Did you do this for me?" And he says no. She asks how she feels, and she admits she is glad. But then she asks, "What does that make me?" And Dexter simply says, "Human." The code gave Dexter his foundation. It is the operating system that everything else runs on. But where things get really interesting is watching him apply it under pressure, especially when people inside his own department started getting suspicious. And nobody got more suspicious, more relentlessly, more annoyingly suspicious than Sergeant James Doakes. From the very first episode of the series, there is one person at Miami Metro who does not buy Dexter's act. Not for a second. Sergeant James Doakes is a former Special Forces operative. He has seen combat. He has killed people in the line of duty. And something about Dexter sets off every alarm in his body. Doakes cannot articulate exactly what it is. He just knows. He looks at Dexter and sees something that everyone else misses. There is a hollowness there, a performance where there should be a person. And it drives Doakes absolutely crazy that nobody else can see it. Their dynamic starts in the very first episode. Doakes spots Dexter near a crime scene and immediately gets in his face. He warns Dexter that he is watching him. The exact line, which became iconic among fans of the show, is, "I am watching you, motherfucker." And he means it. Doakes is not bluffing. He is not making casual threats. This is a trained killer with elite military instincts telling another killer that he has been made. And the thing is, Doakes is right. He is completely 100% right about Dexter. He just cannot prove it. Now, for most of Season 1, Doakes is more of an ongoing irritation than a genuine threat. He glares at Dexter during briefings. He questions his presence at crime scenes. He makes snide comments about Dexter always hanging around homicide cases, but Dexter manages it. He stays polite. He stays boring. He gives Doakes nothing to work with, and the people around them dismiss Doakes as being paranoid, aggressive, difficult, which, to be fair, Doakes is all of those things. But he is also the only person in the entire building who has correctly identified what Dexter really is. Season 2 is where this becomes a full-blown chess match, because in Season 2, scuba divers discover Dexter's underwater body dump site. Bags and bags of dismembered victims are pulled from the ocean floor. The media dubs the unknown killer the Bay Harbor Butcher. The FBI sends in Special Agent Frank Lundy to lead a task force. And suddenly Dexter is not just killing in the shadows, he is working inside the very investigation that is hunting for him. He gets assigned to the task force, analyzing evidence, his own evidence. And this is where Doakes escalates. He starts actively following Dexter, tailing him after work, showing up at places Dexter does not expect. Doakes is operating on pure instinct and stubborn determination. He does not have proof, he does not have a warrant. He just has a gut feeling and the kind of relentlessness that comes from years of military training. And for Dexter, this is a problem. Because Doakes is good. Doakes is really, really good. He is the one person Dexter cannot simply charm or bore into submission. So Dexter comes up with his first genuinely smart play against Doakes. He decides to undermine Doakes' credibility by making him look violent and unstable. And the way he does it is so simple it is almost funny. Dexter goes into Doakes' office and headbutts him. Just walks in and smashes his forehead into Doakes' face. Now, Doakes is a trained fighter. His instinct is to retaliate immediately. So he does. He bursts out of his office and beats Dexter down in front of the entire department. And that is exactly what Dexter wanted. Because now everyone has seen Doakes assault a co-worker who, as far as they know, is just a mild-mannered forensic tech. It makes Doakes look like a loose cannon. It damages his reputation. It makes anything he says about Dexter seem like it is coming from a place of personal animosity rather than genuine suspicion. Doakes gets suspended for the assault. And here's the ironic part. The suspension actually frees Doakes up to investigate Dexter more aggressively because he is no longer tied to his desk. But in the long run, it still works in Dexter's favor. Because when everything finally falls apart for Doakes, people remember the violence. They remember the anger. They think, yeah, I can see how that guy could be a killer. The situation really comes to a head in the second half of Season 2. Doakes follows Dexter all the way to a cabin in the Everglades where Dexter has been disposing of a drug dealer named Santos Jimenez. Doakes catches Dexter literally red-handed carrying body parts. This is it. This is the moment where the jig should be up. Doakes pulls his gun and tries to make an arrest, but Dexter fights back. Doakes manages to shoot Dexter in the thigh, but Dexter gets close enough to apply a sleeper hold. Doakes goes unconscious, and when he wakes up, he is inside a large cage in the cabin. The same cage that the drug dealer had been using to store cocaine. Doakes is now Dexter's prisoner, and he yells at Dexter, "You are going to have to kill me, Morgan." And this is the moment where we see Dexter's intelligence really shine. Because the obvious move, the easy move, is to kill Doakes. Doakes knows everything. He has seen the evidence. He can identify Dexter as the Bay Harbor butcher beyond any doubt. Killing him solves the problem instantly. But Dexter hesitates, not because of sentimentality, but because Doakes is not a murderer. He does not fit the code. Killing an innocent man, even one who is a direct threat, feels wrong. So Dexter comes up with what he calls his third option. Instead of killing Doakes, he will frame him. He will plant evidence so overwhelming that the FBI will believe Doakes is the Bay Harbor butcher. And the beauty of this plan is that once Doakes is arrested and starts telling people that Dexter Morgan is the real butcher, nobody will believe him. It will sound like the desperate ramblings of a man who got caught. Everything Doakes says will be dismissed as insane denial. The execution is meticulous. Dexter takes Doakes' fingerprints and presses them onto his killing tools. He then tosses the tools into the ocean, specifically in a spot where a diving class will discover them. And here is where luck intersects with planning. Doakes had actually stolen Dexter's blood slides from his apartment earlier, trying to use them as evidence against him. When Doakes fled the country, police searched his car at the airport and found the slides in the trunk. Dexter did not plant them there. Doakes did that to himself by taking them. But the result is the same. The slides are found in Doakes' possession, not Dexter's. On top of all that, Dexter uses Jimenez's confiscated cell phone to set up a meeting with a drug trafficker and murderer named Jose Garza, then kills Garza at the cabin while Doakes watches helplessly. This ties another murder to the location, further implicating Doakes. Dexter even manipulates the forensic investigation from the inside. When he's called in to analyze the blood slides that were found in Doakes' car, he wipes his own fingerprints off the box before anyone can process them. The FBI technicians are literally taking orders from him. He is the lead forensic technician analyzing evidence of his own crimes. And nobody suspects a thing. Meanwhile, LaGuerta, who is one of the few people loyal to Doakes, tries desperately to clear his name. She finds an alibi. During the time one of the butcher's victims went missing, she and Doakes were on a stakeout together. She has notes, she has records. But Lundy cannot accept the evidence because LaGuerta's own credibility has been compromised. She had hidden the fact that Doakes called her after the manhunt was launched, so the one piece of evidence that could have saved Doakes gets thrown out because of an unrelated procedural mistake. Dexter did not even orchestrate that part. It just fell into place. When Matthews and Lundy bring Dexter in to confront him with the blood slide box, expecting him to be shocked, Dexter plays it perfectly. He says almost casually that the slides are trophies. And when they tell him the prime suspect is Doakes, Dexter goes along with it effortlessly. He says he has always sensed something off about Doakes, that it would explain why Doakes constantly antagonized him. He feeds them exactly what they want to hear. A smart man confirming their theory with just enough reluctance to seem genuine. Now, there's a tragic dimension to all of this that I think is worth acknowledging. Doakes was right. He was right about everything. He saw through Dexter's mask when nobody else could. He followed his instincts. He did what a good cop should do. And he was destroyed for it. Not by Dexter's hand, exactly. In the end, it was Lila West, Dexter's unhinged ex-girlfriend, who tracked down the cabin using Dexter's GPS device and blew it up, killing Doakes. But the frame job that Dexter built was already so complete that it did not matter. Doakes was posthumously branded as the Bay Harbor Butcher. His name became synonymous with serial murder. Everything he stood for was erased. And this is a pattern that shows up throughout the series. Dexter's intelligence is not just about being clever in the moment. It is about building systems that sustain themselves. The Doakes frame did not just get Dexter out of Season 2 alive. It protected him for years. It became the official story. Doakes equals the Bay Harbor Butcher. Case closed. And every time someone got suspicious later, like LaGuerta in Season 7, they were fighting against an established narrative that had been accepted by the FBI, the department, the media, and the public. Dexter did not just escape, he rewrote history. There is one more detail from this whole saga that I think is underappreciated. While Doakes was imprisoned in the cabin, he told Dexter something about Harry. He said, "They never told you." And then he passed out from the sedative Dexter had slipped into his water. This piqued Dexter's curiosity enough to delay killing Doakes, which is partly why the third option happened at all. Dexter later went to Captain Matthews and asked about Harry's death. And Matthews revealed the truth. Harry did not die of heart disease. He committed suicide. He overdosed on his own heart medication. Matthews had buried the autopsy report to protect Dexter and Deb. The reason Harry killed himself was because he had finally seen the reality of what the code produced. 3 days before his death, Harry walked in on Dexter chopping up a corpse. A man named Rhinus, a pimp who had murdered a prostitute. Dexter was proud. He showed Harry what he had done, expecting approval. Instead, Harry vomited. He told Dexter to stay away from him. And then, days later, he killed himself. The man who built the code could not live with what the code created. That revelation does not make Dexter less intelligent, but it adds a layer of tragedy to the entire system. The code works. The code is brilliant. But even its creator could not look at the result and call it good. Doakes was the most persistent internal threat Dexter ever faced. But his forensic skills were not just for self-preservation. He weaponized his day job in ways that were honestly kind of elegant, and that is worth talking about in more detail. One of the things that sets Dexter apart from pretty much every other fictional serial killer is that his intelligence is not abstract. It is not theoretical, it is applied, and where he applies it most effectively is in his forensic expertise. Dexter is not just a guy who happens to work in a crime lab. He is one of the best blood spatter analysts in Miami. His colleagues trust his judgment. His bosses rely on his reports. And he uses that position like a Swiss Army knife, pulling out exactly the right tool for whatever situation he is in. Let us start with one of the earlier examples from Season 1. There is a man named Matt Chambers who has been killing people with his car while driving drunk, then skipping town and starting over with a new identity. He has done this in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and South Boston under the aliases Matthew Brewster and Matt Rasmussen. The justice system keeps failing because Chambers keeps reinventing himself. So Dexter stalks him, he follows him to a bar, strikes up a casual conversation, and when Chambers is not looking, he takes his whiskey glass, lifts the fingerprints right off it. Then he runs those prints through a database back at the lab and matches them to the killings in other states, all done through his day job. All perfectly executed using tools and access that he already has. The bar, the glass, the database, the confirmation. Chambers never sees it coming. There is a similar moment in Season 2 that I find kind of amusing. Dexter's investigating a car salesman named Roger Hicks, who he suspects of 2 murders. He goes to the car dealership, pretends to be shopping for an SUV, and while Hicks is explaining the features of the vehicle, Dexter steals his comb from his coat pocket. He takes the comb back to the lab and examines the hair under a microscope. Turns out the hair is synthetic. It is a wig. The comb does not give him the DNA evidence he needs. But what I love about this moment is that it shows Dexter's instinct. He is always collecting, always testing. Every interaction is a potential source of evidence. He treats everyday social situations as intelligence-gathering operations. Now, the forensic weapon gets significantly more sophisticated as the series goes on. In Season 1, there is a psychiatrist named Dr. Emmett Meridian, who Dexter suspects of manipulating powerful women into committing suicide. He notices a pattern, 3 dead women who all shared the same therapist, and he goes to investigate. He visits Meridian under the alias Sean Ellis. He poses as a patient, he asks questions, and when Meridian steps away to pay for lunch, Dexter sneaks a look at his appointment book and checks the scheduling against alibis. He finds that Meridian had a patient named Scott Solomon who was scheduled during the time of one of the deaths. Dexter tracks Solomon down and confirms the appointment was kept, which means Meridian has a solid alibi. He was genuinely with a patient when the death occurred, but this does not clear Meridian in Dexter's mind. It actually confirms his suspicion. Because Meridian's method is not physical murder, he psychologically manipulates vulnerable women into killing themselves. He does not need to be at the scene. The suicides happen after his sessions, not during them. The alibi proves that Meridian is smart enough to have distance between himself and the death. It is careful, patient, methodical investigative work, the kind of thing a good detective would do, except Dexter is not building a case for prosecution, he is building a case for execution. One of my favorite forensic plays happens in Season 7 with a journalist named Sal Price. Sal has been writing about serial killers for years, and he has started to get dangerously close to the truth about Hannah McKay, a woman Dexter's involved with. Sal is also starting to look at Dexter himself, so Dexter needs to neutralize the threat without killing him, because Sal does not fit the code. He is a journalist, not a murderer. So here's what Dexter does. He breaks into Sal's apartment, he steals his toothbrush and dental floss to get his DNA, he lifts his fingerprints off surfaces around the apartment. Then he sits down at Sal's computer and deletes all of his research on Hannah McKay. Everything. Just gone. But Dexter does not stop there. He takes Sal's DNA and plants it at the scene of an unsolved murder, the Christy Lawson case, which Sal himself had covered years earlier. So now if anyone investigates, they will find forensic evidence linking Sal to a murder he wrote about. It is an incredible piece of reverse engineering. Dexter does not just remove the threat, he creates a counter-narrative. If Sal ever tries to go public with anything about Dexter or Hannah, his own DNA is sitting at a crime scene waiting to be discovered. And then there is the Hannah McKay water bottle, which is one of the cleanest forensic moments in the entire series. In Season 7, Deborah is driving to Hialeah to interview a witness who might have information about Hannah. On the way, she falls asleep at the wheel and crashes her car. When she wakes up in the hospital, she has bruises, a broken wrist, and an excessive amount of her anti-anxiety medication in her system. The doctors think she accidentally took too many pills. But Deborah does not buy it. She remembers falling asleep, not passing out from pills. She thinks Hannah drugged her, and she tells Dexter. Now Dexter is dating Hannah at this point. He does not want to believe it, but he does what he always does. He investigates. He goes to Deborah's wrecked car and finds a nearly empty water bottle. He tests it. And the lab results confirm that the water contained 40% alprazolam, the same anti-anxiety medication Deborah was prescribed. More than enough to knock someone out. Hannah had dissolved Deborah's own pills into the water so she would pass out behind the wheel. It was designed to look like Deborah accidentally took too many of her own meds, and Dexter caught it because he applied forensic analysis to a situation that nobody else thought to test. This is worth pausing on because it highlights something important. Dexter does not just use forensics to serve his own interests, he uses it to find truth, even when that truth hurts. Confirming that his girlfriend tried to kill his sister is not a comfortable revelation. But Dexter's forensic mind does not care about comfort, it cares about evidence. And the evidence does not lie. That is actually one of his recurring lines throughout the series. The blood does not lie. There's another pattern worth mentioning. Dexter regularly tampers with evidence at his day job. And he does it in both directions. Sometimes he plants evidence to frame a target. Sometimes he removes or alters evidence to protect himself or someone he cares about. In Season 5, after a corrupt private investigator named Stan Liddy is killed, the evidence starts pointing toward Detective Joey Quinn. Quinn had been working with Liddy to surveil Dexter, which is its own story. But when Liddy ends up dead, the forensic trail leads back to Quinn, so Dexter steps in and alters the evidence to ensure Quinn does not take the fall. He cleans up the forensic record. And Quinn, who probably suspects that Dexter did him a favor, never asks about it. That silent transaction between them is one of the more interesting dynamics in the later seasons. And this goes all the way back to the core of Dexter's advantage. He does not just understand forensics in theory, he practices it every day. He processes crime scenes. He testifies in court as an expert witness. He trains junior technicians. He photographs evidence. He runs lab equipment. His hands are in every aspect of the forensic pipeline at Miami Metro. So when he needs to manipulate that pipeline, whether by adding evidence, removing it, or redirecting the interpretation of it, he knows exactly which levers to pull. He knows what will be tested and what will not. He knows which colleagues are thorough and which ones take shortcuts. He knows how long it takes for results to come back and who reviews them first. It is worth noting here that in the real world, blood spatter analysis is actually a lot less reliable than the show makes it look. The Innocence Project has pointed out that a 2009 report by the National Academy of Sciences flagged huge uncertainties in the field. Blood pattern analysts are often more subjective than scientific. The show treats Dexter's work as near infallible, but in reality, the discipline he practices is one of the more contested areas of forensic science. I just think that is an interesting piece of context. The character's genius is built on a foundation that real scientists would say is shaky at best. But within the world of the show, it works, and Dexter milks it for everything it is worth. Dexter was a forensic genius, no question, but some of his smartest plays had nothing to do with microscopes or blood work. Sometimes the genius was purely social, and for a guy who claims to have no real emotions, he was remarkably good at reading other people and using that information to get exactly what he needed. Dexter Morgan describes himself as someone who fakes all of his human interactions. He says this in the very first scene of the very first episode, and it sets the tone for the entire series. He believes he is empty inside, that the trauma of watching his mother die in that shipping container left a void where normal emotions should be. And to survive in the world, to maintain the facade that the code requires, he has to perform humanity every single day, smiling when he does not feel happy, laughing at jokes he does not find funny, asking about people's weekends when he does not care about the answer. It sounds exhausting, honestly, and in a way, it is one of his greatest skills. Because here's the thing, Dexter's actually really good at it. If he were bad at faking emotions, someone would have caught on decades ago. But the people around him, people who spend 40 hours a week with him, people who are literally trained to detect deception, they believe his act. They think he is a little awkward, a little dry, maybe a bit too interested in blood for comfort. But fundamentally, they think he is one of them. A normal guy with a normal life and a slightly unusual job. Take his relationship with Rita Bennett. Rita was a domestic violence survivor. She had been through a terrible marriage with a man named Paul who had abused her. When Dexter starts dating her, he's not looking for love. He is looking for camouflage. He needs a girlfriend to appear normal, and Rita is, in his mind, ideal. She has no interest in sex or deep emotional intimacy because of her past trauma. She is content with a boyfriend who shows up, is kind to her children, and does not push for more. Dexter is comfortable with the lack of intimacy because he does not feel the need for it. They are both getting what they need from the relationship, even if their reasons are completely different. And it works. For multiple seasons, Rita serves as Dexter's primary cover story. When colleagues ask about his personal life, he talks about Rita, about her kids Aster and Cody, about date nights and family barbecues. It makes him seem human, relatable. Nobody suspects the guy who brings donuts to the office and goes home to his girlfriend and her kids. But Dexter's social engineering goes way beyond just maintaining a girlfriend. He is constantly manipulating the people around him, often in small, subtle ways that never register as manipulation. In Season 3, there is a situation where Miguel Prado, the assistant district attorney, wants to tell his brother Ramon the truth about who killed their brother Oscar. Now, Ramon is volatile, emotional, prone to outbursts. If he finds out that Dexter killed Oscar, even in self-defense, the consequences could be catastrophic. So Dexter needs to stop Miguel from sharing this information without directly confronting him about it. His solution is elegant. He makes anonymous phone calls to Ramon, pretending to have information about Fribo, the drug dealer everyone thinks killed Oscar. He tells Ramon to meet him at a specific location. Ramon shows up, but nobody is there. He gets angry, he gets drunk, he gets into a fight. And when Miguel sees his brother spiraling like this, he realizes that Ramon is not emotionally stable enough to handle the truth. Miguel decides on his own to keep the secret. Dexter never has to argue with him about it. He never has to threaten or persuade. He just creates a situation where Miguel reaches the conclusion Dexter needs him to reach. That is social engineering at its finest. There is another moment in Season 8 that shows this kind of manipulation in a more compressed form. Dexter needs Quinn to leave a surveillance post at a yacht club because Zach Hamilton, a young man Dexter is secretly investigating, is about to make a move. If Quinn sees what happens, it will create problems. So Dexter calls Jamie, Quinn's girlfriend and also Harrison's babysitter. He tells Jamie that Quinn thinks she's going to break up with him because he did not make Sergeant. Jamie thinks this is ridiculous. She immediately calls Quinn to reassure him. Quinn, touched by the call, leaves the yacht club to go see her. Just like that, the surveillance post is empty. Dexter made 2 phone calls. He manipulated 2 people who trust him, and neither of them had any idea they were being played. The entire thing took about 2 minutes. Dexter is also remarkably skilled at assuming false identities, not just using fake names, which he does constantly, but actually becoming a different person in the moment. When he visits the therapist Emmett Meridian, he does not just give a fake name, he presents as a patient. He talks about his life. He engages with the therapy process. He is convincing enough that Meridian, a trained professional whose entire job is reading people, does not suspect anything. When he infiltrates Arthur Mitchell's world in Season 4, he creates Kyle Butler. Kyle is a regular guy, a concerned community member. He volunteers with Arthur at a charity build for Habitat for Humanity. He attends Mitchell's church. He goes to dinner at the Mitchell family home. He even befriends Arthur's wife. And throughout all of this, Arthur, who is himself an incredibly perceptive and dangerous serial killer, does not realize that Kyle Butler is Dexter Morgan, the man who is planning to kill him. That is worth sitting with for a moment. Dexter is so good at social deception that he fooled a man who had been successfully hiding his own serial murders for over 30 years. Arthur Mitchell was not stupid. He was cautious, paranoid, and experienced. And Dexter walked right into his life, shook his hand, and sat at his dinner table. In Season 2, Dexter attends Narcotics Anonymous meetings as part of his cover story. He is supposed to be recovering from drug addiction, which is his explanation for some of the erratic behavior that Rita noticed. At the meetings, he introduces himself as Bob and delivers what he himself describes as a seemingly well-rehearsed story about drug use. It is convincing enough that the group accepts him. And it is at these meetings that he meets Lila West, who becomes one of the most dangerous relationships in his life. But the point is, Dexter can walk into a room full of people sharing their deepest vulnerabilities and fit right in. He can mirror their pain, he can match their energy. He can seem like one of them even though he is there for entirely different reasons. And then there is maybe the most sustained piece of social engineering in the series. For years, for the entire run of the show, Dexter manages to be simultaneously liked and overlooked at Miami Metro. He brings donuts. He is helpful. He volunteers for extra work. He makes gentle jokes. He never threatens anyone. He never seeks promotion or attention. He is, by design, the most forgettable person in the building, and that is exactly what he needs to be. Because the more remarkable you are, the more people look at you, and the more people look at you, the harder it is to hide. This is something I think about a lot with Dexter. His greatest social skill is not charisma, it is calibration. He knows exactly how much personality to show. Enough to be accepted, not enough to be scrutinized. Enough to have friends, not enough to have people who really know him. It is a razor's edge, and he walks it for years, not perfectly obviously. There are slip-ups. But the fact that he maintained this balance for as long as he did inside a building full of detectives is honestly astonishing. There is one more dimension to this that I want to mention before we move on. Dexter is not just manipulating individuals, he is manipulating narratives. When he needs people to believe something, he does not just tell them. He creates conditions where they discover it themselves. The Doakes frame, the anonymous calls to Ramon Prado, the way he manages Quinn's surveillance. In each case, Dexter is not lying to someone's face. He is constructing a reality where the truth he needs people to believe is the one they arrive at on their own. That is significantly harder than just being a good liar. It requires an understanding of how people think, what they fear, what they want, and how they process information. For a man who claims to have no emotional capacity, Dexter has an almost eerie understanding of human psychology. Social manipulation kept Dexter hidden in plain sight. But every now and then, someone got close enough to threaten the entire operation. And when that happened, Dexter had to do more than just talk his way out. He had to plan, execute, and cover his tracks in ways that were genuinely impressive. Few situations tested him harder than his partnership with Miguel Prado. Season 3 introduces one of the most politically dangerous people who ever discovers Dexter's secret. Miguel Prado is an assistant district attorney. He is ambitious, charismatic, connected, and dangerous. He is also the kind of guy who walks into a room and owns it. People respect him, people fear him a little. He has real power within Miami's legal system. And when he stumbles onto Dexter's secret, it creates a problem that cannot be solved with a frame job or a piece of planted evidence. Here's how it starts. Dexter is tracking a drug dealer named Freebo who killed 2 college girls. He goes to Freebo's house, planning to kill him. But when he gets there, someone else is already inside. Oscar Prado, Miguel's younger brother. Oscar has come looking for drugs. He panics when he sees Dexter, grabs a bayonet, and attacks. Dexter kills him in self-defense. This is the first time Dexter kills someone who is not a murderer. It is a violation of the code, and it rattles him. The situation gets more complicated when Miguel starts his own investigation into his brother's death. He is not just a grieving brother, he is a prosecutor with resources and connections. Eventually, Miguel catches Dexter at Freebo's house and confronts him. But instead of being horrified by what Dexter has done, Miguel is fascinated. He tells Dexter that Oscar was a drug addict, that his death was almost inevitable, and that what matters now is that Freebo, the man who was supposed to have killed Oscar, is dead. Miguel does not know that Dexter actually killed Oscar by accident and then killed Freebo separately. But the end result is that Miguel believes Dexter rid the world of a bad person and he wants in. Miguel pushes for a partnership. He wants to use Dexter's skills to eliminate people who have escaped justice through the legal system. From Miguel's perspective, this is not murder. It is the extension of justice that the courts cannot provide. He even talks about the code, though he understands it differently than Dexter does. For Dexter, the code is a survival mechanism. For Miguel, it is a weapon of moral righteousness. At first, Dexter entertains the idea. Having a partner is new for him. Having someone who knows the truth and does not recoil from it is something he has never experienced. And Miguel is, at least initially, respectful of the code's rules. But it does not take long for the partnership to deteriorate. Miguel starts pushing boundaries. He wants to move faster. He wants to choose targets based on his own criteria, not Dexter's. And then he crosses a line that cannot be uncrossed. He kills Ellen Wolf. Ellen Wolf was a defense attorney. She was not a murderer. She had not escaped justice. She was just an obstacle in Miguel's career, a lawyer who had gotten criminals acquitted, which infuriated Miguel as a prosecutor. But being good at your job, even if that job sometimes means guilty people go free, is not a crime. And killing her is a fundamental violation of the code. It is exactly the kind of thing the code was designed to prevent. Dexter realizes that Miguel is not a partner, he is a liability. A man who has learned enough about Dexter's methods to be dangerous but lacks the discipline to use them responsibly. Sharing the code was a mistake, and now Dexter has to clean it up. The way he does it is one of the most strategically brilliant moves in the entire series. At this point, Miami Metro is hunting a serial killer called the Skinner, a man who kidnaps victims and literally flays them alive. The Skinner is active, he is dangerous, and the entire department is focused on finding him. Dexter uses this to his advantage. He kills Miguel, and then he stages the crime scene to look like the Skinner did it. Think about the layers of intelligence required for this. First, Dexter has to actually kill Miguel, who is not some unsuspecting civilian. Miguel is physically capable, mentally sharp, and has been spending time with Dexter long enough to understand his methods. Second, Dexter has to make the kill look like it was performed by a completely different serial killer, one who has a very specific and recognizable method. The staging has to be good enough to fool Miami Metro's homicide investigators, people who have been studying the Skinner's work for months. Third, by redirecting suspicion onto an existing investigation, Dexter ensures that nobody even considers other possibilities. Nobody asks, why would someone want Miguel Prado dead, because they already have an answer. The Skinner got him. This is the moment where Showtime's own official list of Dexter's smartest moments picks up this kill as one of the highlights, and I agree completely. Because it is not just clever, it is elegant. It solves multiple problems simultaneously. It removes Miguel as a threat, it maintains the secrecy of the code, and it does not create a new mystery that someone might investigate. It folds perfectly into an existing one. Earlier in the season, there is another detail worth mentioning. After Dexter and Miguel jointly kill a man named Billy Fleeter, a convicted murderer who had been orchestrating hits from prison, Dexter insists on disposing of the body himself. He tells Miguel that leaving no trace is his area of expertise. Miguel agrees, and in that moment, Dexter is reasserting control. He is drawing a line. The killing might be shared. The cleanup is his and his alone, because Dexter knows that sloppy disposal is how people get caught. And he is not about to trust someone else with the most critical part of the process. There is also a conversation between Dexter and Miguel that happens on a pier, where Miguel tries to convince Dexter to move forward with a new target. Miguel pushes back against the code, calling it a straitjacket. He asks Dexter how many people he has killed. Dexter does not answer, but the conversation reveals the fundamental difference between them. Dexter follows the code because it keeps him alive and free. Miguel sees the code as a constraint on what he thinks of as moral justice. One of them is a disciplined predator, the other is an amateur playing at being dangerous. After Miguel's death, Dexter reflects on the experience, and through the apparition of Harry, his dead father, who appears as a kind of inner monologue throughout the series, the lesson is made explicit. Sharing the code was a mistake. Dexter is now responsible for what Miguel did while operating under a corrupted version of it. This lesson echoes through the rest of the series. Every time someone new learns Dexter's secret, the consequences are devastating. For them, for Dexter, or for both. Miguel proved that sharing the code was always going to end badly. But Dexter's next great adversary did not need to be told the secret. He figured it out on his own. And he did it by walking right into the Miami Metro Police Station, picking up Dexter's work badge, and saying 4 words that changed everything. Season 4 is widely considered the best season of Dexter, and the reason for that is almost entirely because of one character, Arthur Mitchell, the Trinity killer, played by John Lithgow in a performance that won him a Golden Globe. Arthur's not just another villain for Dexter to outsmart, he is a mirror. A distorted, terrifying reflection of what Dexter could become if the code were applied to a different kind of mind. Arthur Mitchell has been killing for over 30 years. He follows a cycle, a repeating pattern of 3 murders that he performs in a specific order in specific cities before moving on. A young woman forced to kill herself in a bathtub, a mother bludgeoned to death, a man buried alive. Each kill corresponds to a traumatic event from Arthur's childhood. His sister's suicide, his mother's accidental death, which he caused. His father's murder at Arthur's own hands. He is not killing out of rage or pleasure. He is compulsively reenacting his family's destruction, over and over, for decades. But here is what fascinates Dexter, despite being one of the most prolific serial killers in American history within the world of the show. Arthur Mitchell appears to be a completely normal, well-adjusted family man. He has a wife, he has children, he runs a church charity that builds houses for people in need. He coaches Little League. He is, on the surface, everything Dexter thinks he wants to be. A man who kills and also has a happy, stable family. Dexter has just become a father himself. Harrison was recently born. He is struggling to balance sleepless nights, a demanding wife, a full-time job, and his extracurricular activities. And here is Arthur Mitchell, doing it all, seemingly effortlessly. So Dexter makes a decision that is simultaneously brilliant and catastrophically stupid. Instead of killing Arthur immediately, which the code would dictate, he decides to study him. He creates a fake identity, Kyle Butler, and infiltrates Arthur's life. He volunteers with Arthur's charity. He goes to his church. He sits at the Mitchell family dinner table. He observes how Arthur interacts with his wife, his son, and his daughter. He wants to learn Arthur's secret. How does a serial killer maintain a family for 30 years without getting caught and without the family falling apart? And this is where the genius and the failure are inseparable. Because Dexter is genuinely good at the undercover work, he is convincing as Kyle Butler. Arthur does not suspect him. For weeks, Dexter maintains the alias while simultaneously working the Trinity case from inside Miami Metro. He is running 2 parallel investigations. One as a member of the homicide task force tracking Trinity's latest cycle of murders. The other as Kyle Butler, befriending the very man the task force is hunting. He attends briefings about the case in the morning and has dinner at Arthur's house in the evening. There is a specific moment during this period that Showtime's official list highlights as one of Dexter's smartest: the cat and mouse game with Zoe Kruger. Kruger is a cop in another jurisdiction who murdered her own husband and child and staged it as a home invasion. She got away with it. Nobody suspects her because she is a fellow officer, but Dexter figures it out. He investigates her case, confirms her guilt, and hunts her down, all while managing the Trinity infiltration simultaneously. It shows the depth of his multitasking capability. He is not just running one operation, he is running multiple operations across different cases, different identities, and different risk levels. But back to Trinity. The infiltration eventually starts to crack. Arthur's family is not the happy picture it appears to be. His wife is terrified of him. His son is emotionally abused. His daughter is controlled and isolated. The perfect family man is actually a tyrant who rules his household through fear. Dexter sees this and realizes that he was wrong. Arthur Mitchell is not a model for how to balance killing and family. He is a cautionary tale. And then comes the moment that changes everything. Arthur Mitchell, suspicious of Kyle Butler for reasons that have been building slowly, follows Dexter to the Miami Metro police station. He walks in, he gets a visitor's badge, he wanders around the station, and then he finds Dexter's desk. He picks up Dexter's work badge, and he reads the name on it, and he says in that calm, measured voice that makes Arthur so terrifying, "Hello, Dexter Morgan." 4 words. And suddenly, the entire dynamic shifts. Arthur knows who Dexter really is. He knows where he works. He knows his real name. The hunter has become the hunted. And Dexter's advantage, his anonymity, is gone. What follows is a frantic escalation. Arthur warns Dexter to back off. Dexter refuses. Arthur begins targeting people close to Dexter, and Dexter makes a critical error. He has multiple opportunities to kill Arthur. The code says do it. The evidence is confirmed. The target is guilty many times over. But Dexter keeps hesitating, partly because he is still fascinated by Arthur, partly because the logistics keep getting complicated, and partly because I think Dexter has started feeling things he is not supposed to feel. Attachment, curiosity, a strange kind of respect. Dexter does eventually kill Arthur Mitchell. He captures him, straps him to a table, and kills him in a classic code-compliant execution. And then he goes home expecting to find Rita and Harrison. Instead, he finds his wife dead in the bathtub. Arthur had killed her before Dexter got to him. Rita is gone, and Harrison, Dexter's infant son, is sitting in a pool of his mother's blood, exactly the way Dexter himself was found as a child. I am spending time on this not because it is one of Dexter's smartest moments. In many ways, it is the opposite. It is his biggest failure. The Trinity case is where his intelligence was undermined by something the code was never designed to handle: emotions. Dexter was brilliant at the infiltration. He was brilliant at maintaining the alias. He was brilliant at working both sides of the investigation. But he was not brilliant at knowing when to stop, when to just follow the code and kill the target and move on. And that is why this chapter matters in a conversation about Dexter's intelligence. Because intelligence without discipline is just talent. The code gave Dexter discipline. And when he abandoned it, when he let curiosity and admiration override the rules, the consequences were the worst of his entire life. Season 4 changed Dexter permanently. He became a single father. His emotional landscape shifted in ways he did not fully understand, but it did not stop him from pulling off some of the most impressive strategic plays in the series. Because the Bay Harbor Butcher investigation was not dead. It was about to come roaring back to life, led by someone who had been suspicious of Dexter for years. If Doakes was Dexter's most relentless threat, LaGuerta was his most patient one. Lieutenant Maria LaGuerta had been part of Miami Metro since the beginning of the series. She was political, ambitious, and sometimes ruthless. But she also had a quality that made her genuinely dangerous to Dexter. She was loyal. Specifically, she was loyal to James Doakes, and she never fully accepted that Doakes was the Bay Harbor Butcher. For years after Doakes' death, this was not a problem. The case was closed. The FBI had signed off. Captain Matthews had moved on. The public had their answer, and LaGuerta, whatever her private doubts, did not have enough to reopen anything. That changed in Season 7. And the way it changed was through a single piece of evidence so small that most people would have missed it. Here is what happens. At a church crime scene, the place where Dexter killed Travis Marshall, the Doomsday Killer in the Season 6 finale, LaGuerta's private forensic team finds something. A charred blood slide, the kind of slide that the Bay Harbor Butcher used to collect from his victims. A blood slide at a crime scene that happened years after Doakes supposedly died. This means one of two things. Either someone is copying the Butcher's method, or the real Butcher is still out there and Doakes was framed. LaGuerta starts quietly investigating. She uses a private lab outside of Miami Metro's forensic department to analyze the slide. When Vince Masuka, the lead forensic tech, finds out that LaGuerta is processing evidence at another lab, he panics. He thinks he is getting fired. He goes to Deborah, who is now the lieutenant, and tells her about it. Deborah is alarmed because she knows the blood slide is connected to Dexter. She confronts LaGuerta, who brushes it off, saying she just needed a second set of eyes on something. But Deborah notices something else on LaGuerta's desk. Frank Lundy's old notebook, the FBI agent who originally investigated the Bay Harbor Butcher case. LaGuerta is not just processing a blood slide, she is rereading the entire Butcher investigation from scratch. What follows over the course of Season 7 is a slow, methodical chess game between Dexter and LaGuerta. And Dexter's moves are some of the most sophisticated in the series. First, he starts working on Captain Matthews. Matthews is retired at this point, but he still has influence. He is also vulnerable because of some personal issues that have surfaced. Dexter reaches out to him, befriends him, and starts providing him with favors. He brings Matthews his favorite alcohol when they meet on his boat. He shares information that Matthews finds useful. He builds a relationship based on trust and mutual benefit. And then, when the time is right, he leverages that relationship. Matthews and LaGuerta meet. Matthews examines the evidence she has compiled. And Dexter has made sure that what Matthews sees leads to only one conclusion. The original investigation was correct. Doakes was the butcher. They find the old boathouse where Doakes supposedly operated, and the evidence inside, evidence that Dexter has planted or arranged, leaves no doubt. Matthews tells LaGuerta to drop it. He assures Dexter on the boat that the investigation is dead, calling it the best Christmas present he could have imagined. And for a moment, it seems like the threat is neutralized, but LaGuerta does not stop. She never stops. She is too smart and too loyal to Doakes to just accept the official story when her gut is screaming at her that something is wrong. She starts making connections. She discovers that Santos Jimenez, the drug dealer whose cabin was involved in the Doakes explosion, was one of 3 men who murdered Dexter's biological mother. She learns that Brian Moser, the ice truck killer from Season 1, was Dexter's biological brother. She starts seeing the pattern. Both boys watch their mother get chopped up. The butcher also dismembered his victims. The butcher took blood slides. Dexter is a blood spatter analyst. Doakes always said there was something off about Dexter. The pieces are coming together. This is where Dexter has to make his most dangerous play. He devises a plan involving Hector Estrada, the man who ordered the murder of Dexter's mother, Laura Moser. Estrada has recently been released from prison. Dexter approaches him under the alias Steve Gaskell, presenting himself as someone who wants to partner on a drug deal. He tells Estrada he has a buddy in Honduras who is shipping large quantities of sativa and needs help moving it. Estrada is suspicious at first, but Dexter is convincing enough. They agree to meet at a specific location. Dexter's plan is multi-layered and almost terrifying in its precision. He intends to kill Estrada, which satisfies the code since Estrada is a murderer who ordered his mother's death. But he also intends to stage the scene in a very specific way. He wants it to look like Estrada and LaGuerta killed each other. This would simultaneously eliminate LaGuerta as a threat, close the reopened investigation, and tie up the Estrada loose end. All in one night. It is the kind of plan that requires absolute control over timing, location, and evidence. The fact that Dexter even conceives of it shows how far his strategic thinking has evolved since the earlier seasons. The execution does not go perfectly. Dexter kidnaps and kills Estrada. He sets the scene. He lures LaGuerta in, but when LaGuerta arrives, things get complicated. Dexter knocks her unconscious, planning to shoot her with Estrada's gun to make it look like a mutual kill. But at that moment, Deborah shows up. She has tracked LaGuerta to the location, and she finds herself standing in a nightmare. Her brother, the man she has been protecting for an entire season, is about to murder a fellow officer, a woman she has worked with for years. LaGuerta regains consciousness. She sees Dexter standing over her. She sees Deborah with a gun, and she tells Deborah to shoot Dexter. She says, "He is a serial killer. Shoot him." And in that moment, Deborah is faced with an impossible choice: her brother or the truth, her family or the law. Deborah shoots LaGuerta. This is the single most devastating moment in the entire series from Deborah's perspective. She crosses a line that can never be uncrossed. She kills a woman to protect her brother, and it breaks her. For the rest of the series, Deborah spirals. She drinks, she takes pills. She questions everything she thought she knew about herself and about Dexter. From a strategic standpoint, Dexter's plan worked. LaGuerta is dead. The investigation is closed permanently. The evidence points to a confrontation between LaGuerta and Estrada. Nobody suspects Dexter, nobody suspects Deborah. The official story holds. But I want to be honest about something. This was not a clean win. Dexter may have outsmarted LaGuerta, but the cost was staggering. His sister became a murderer. Their relationship, already strained to the breaking point by Deborah's discovery of his secret, was effectively destroyed. And the psychological damage to Deborah contributed directly to the chain of events that would eventually kill her. There is a detail from this arc that I think deserves mention. Throughout Season 7, while LaGuerta is investigating him, Dexter also has to manage Deborah, who discovered his secret in the Season 6 finale when she walked in on him killing Travis Marshall in the church. So during the entire LaGuerta investigation, Dexter is simultaneously teaching Deborah about the code, trying to earn her acceptance, or at least her tolerance, managing LaGuerta's investigation, maintaining his day job, and conducting his regular kills. The number of parallel operations he is running during Season 7 is genuinely staggering, and the fact that he keeps all of these plates spinning without any of them crashing into each other, at least until the very end, is one of the most impressive sustained displays of intelligence in the show. By the end of Season 7, Dexter had survived the FBI, multiple serial killers, a reopened investigation, and his own sister's knowledge of his secret. But some of his cleverest moments were smaller, quieter, the kind of plays that do not make the highlight reels but really show what his mind was capable of when it was working at full speed. Across 8 seasons of the original series, there are dozens of moments where Dexter's intelligence manifests not in some grand scheme but in a single quick decision, a small piece of misdirection, or a clever improvisation that most people would never think of. These are the plays that do not get talked about as much, but they are the ones that honestly impress me the most. Because anyone can plan a brilliant strategy when they have time. It takes a different kind of mind to be brilliant in the moment under pressure with no plan at all. Let me start with one from Season 6 that Showtime specifically highlighted on their official list of Dexter's smartest moments. The Doomsday Killer, Travis Marshall, has been staging elaborate murder tableaus based on the Book of Revelation. Each kill is a theatrical production designed to represent a different biblical event. One of his accomplices, a woman named Beth Dorsey, walks into the Miami Metro Police Station carrying a canister of poison gas. She intends to release it as part of what Travis calls the Wormwood Tableau, a reference to the biblical star that poisons the world's waters. If she succeeds, dozens of cops and civilians in the building will die. Dexter spots her, he recognizes the threat, and he acts. He neutralizes Beth before she can release the gas. The details of exactly how he stops her are less important than the context. This is not Dexter operating in the shadows. This is not Dexter in a controlled kill room with plastic wrap and preparation time. This is Dexter making a snap decision in a public place, in broad daylight, surrounded by his colleagues, to prevent a mass casualty event. It is the kind of moment where his instincts, his training, and his willingness to take decisive action come together perfectly. Then there is the Speltzer situation in Season 7, which I touched on earlier when talking about the blood slides. But there is more to this one worth covering. Ray Speltzer was a particularly nasty killer. He was physically massive, aggressive, and he had a fixation on building elaborate mazes in his houses where he would hunt and kill his victims while wearing a bullhorn helmet. I know, it is as disturbing as it sounds. Dexter tries to kill Speltzer once and fails. Speltzer is too big, too strong, and the situation goes sideways. Worse, Speltzer then kills another woman, Melanie Garrett, in his maze while Deborah is staking out his house. Deborah hears the screams but cannot get there in time. It is a devastating failure for both Morgan siblings. And it is the moment where Deborah, who has been resistant to Dexter's activities, finally concedes that what he does might be a necessary evil. She cannot condone it, but she understands it. So when Dexter goes after Speltzer a second time, he does it differently. He does not try to overpower him. He does not confront him directly. Instead, Dexter goes to a cemetery where Speltzer has been keeping trophies, specifically earrings from his victims, in a mausoleum. Dexter finds one of the trophies, an earring belonging to a victim named Nina Fleischer. He tries to send a photo to Deborah as evidence, but there is no cell service underground. Later, after dark, Speltzer returns to the cemetery. He notices someone has been there. He sees a one-word note that says, "Stay." And as he is reading it, Dexter creeps up from behind and knocks him out with a shovel. No elaborate plan, no complex staging, just patience, awareness of the environment, and the willingness to hit a very large man in the back of the head with a garden tool. Dexter drags Speltzer to a crematorium. He straps him to a table. Speltzer wakes up furious, screaming, threatening to kill Dexter, and Dexter mockingly yells right back in his face. Then he tells Speltzer that normally this is where he would take a blood slide, but he cannot risk anyone finding one ever again. He stabs Speltzer in the heart with a broken shovel handle, turns on the crematorium, and burns the body along with his second blood slide box, the replacement collection he had been building since the original set was confiscated during the Bay Harbor Butcher investigation in Season 2. Years of trophies gone, and it is adaptive. Dexter has learned from the Bay Harbor Butcher investigation. He has learned from the blood slide that LaGuerta found at the church. He is evolving his methods in real time. That is intelligence. Another quiet genius moment that I think deserves more attention happens in Season 5. After Rita's death, Dexter is in a dark place. He eventually meets Lumen Pierce, a woman who was kidnapped, raped, and tortured by a group of men known informally as the Barrel Girl Gang. Dexter and Lumen team up to hunt down and kill her attackers. It is the only time in the series where Dexter has a genuine killing partner who shares his methods and follows the code. During the season, Dexter stages a fake crime scene to throw off suspicion and protect both himself and Lumen. Showtime listed this on their official compilation of Dexter's smartest plays. The specific details involve misdirecting the investigation so that the kills appear to be something other than what they actually are. It is the same principle he used with the Skinner in Season 3 and would use again with the LaGuerta setup in Season 7. Dexter has a pattern. When he needs to hide a kill, he does not just cover his tracks. He creates a false narrative that is more compelling than the truth. He gives investigators something to find, something that makes sense, something that satisfies their curiosity, and they stop looking. Now, I need to talk about the Season 8 finale because it contains what I consider one of the most underrated smart moments in the entire series, the Saxon pen kill. Oliver Saxon, also known as the Brain Surgeon, is the final season's big bad. He is a former patient of Evelyn Vogel, and he has been terrorizing Miami through a series of murders where he removes a section of the brain from his victims. By the end of the season, Saxon has shot Deborah, leading to complications that will ultimately kill her. Dexter wants Saxon dead, but Saxon has been arrested. He is in police custody. He is in a holding cell being questioned by Batista and Quinn. There is a security camera recording everything. Dexter comes up with a plan that is so simple and so effective that it almost does not look like a plan at all. He gets permission to enter the holding cell under the pretense of performing a gunshot residue test on Saxon. This is well within his professional duties. Nobody questions it. He brings his forensic kit, sits down across from Saxon, and starts laying out tools on the table, including, casually, a pen. Then Dexter starts talking to Saxon. He tells him that he has been forced to look at himself, and what he sees is a trail of blood and body parts. He accuses Saxon of taking away his dream of having a happy life. But here is the key. Dexter knows the security camera is on. Everything he says is calibrated for the recording. He is not threatening Saxon, he is provoking him. And then he drops the line that seals it. He tells Saxon that he is there to kill him with the pen. Saxon takes the bait. He grabs the pen from the table and stabs Dexter in the left shoulder. In apparent self-defense, Dexter immediately takes the pen back and stabs Saxon in the carotid artery. Saxon bleeds out on the floor. Dexter pushes the alarm button. 2 officers rush in, and Dexter is cowering against the wall, appearing terrified. Batista and Quinn review the security footage. Batista asks Dexter why he was even in there. Dexter explains that he had to make sure the GSR test was done perfectly and that he wanted to look Saxon in the eye. Quinn watches the footage and says it is obviously self-defense, and nods to Dexter. Batista agrees. They have everything they need to clear him. Quinn even adds that he is glad Saxon is dead and wishes he could have done it himself. Think about what just happened. Dexter walked into a monitored holding cell, manipulated a dangerous killer into attacking him first, killed the man on camera in what appeared to be self-defense, and walked out with the full endorsement of the 2 detectives who watched the tape. He committed a premeditated murder in the most surveilled environment possible and got praised for it. That is not just intelligence, that is artistry. One final quiet genius moment, and this one comes from the prequel series, Original Sin. We see young Dexter, played by Patrick Gibson, at the very beginning of his journey. He is interning at Miami Metro's forensics department. And during this period, while Harry is in the hospital recovering from a heart attack, Dexter notices something strange about one of the nurses. Her name is Mary. She cuts out obituary notices from the newspaper. She exhibits unsettling tendencies. Dexter investigates further and discovers that Mary has been injecting patients with potassium nitrate, a lethal substance. She's a serial killer operating right there in the hospital. Harry, realizing what Dexter has found, reluctantly gives him permission to eliminate Mary. This is the culmination of everything Harry has trained him for. And Dexter does it meticulously. He confronts her, he kills her, he disposes of her body in a remote lake called Alligator Alley, ensuring no evidence remains. However, he keeps her earrings as a trophy, which is a mistake that foreshadows the blood slide problem years later. But the kill itself is clean, precise, disciplined. What strikes me about this moment is that Dexter is barely an adult. He is an intern. He has no authority, no resources, no experience beyond what Harry has taught him in theory. And yet he identifies a serial killer that the hospital staff have missed, confirms her method, and eliminates her without leaving a trace. The system Harry and Vogel designed is already working, even at this early stage. Those are the moments that do not make the highlight reels, but really show how Dexter's mind works. He is always watching, always processing, always 3 steps ahead. And that brings us to something worth stepping back and examining from a wider perspective. What kind of intelligence does Dexter actually have? And what are its limits? We have spent a lot of time going through specific moments, specific kills, specific schemes. And all of that is great. It is fun. It is the meat of the show. But I think it is worth taking a step back now and asking a broader question. What kind of intelligent is Dexter Morgan? Not in a vague, he is really smart kind of way, but specifically, what are the components of his intelligence? Where does it come from, and where does it break down? I want to start with the most obvious piece. Dexter has exceptional tactical intelligence. When I say tactical, I mean he is brilliant at localized situations. Give him a problem with clear parameters, a target to identify, a kill to execute, a piece of evidence to manage, and he will find the optimal solution almost every time. He reads environments quickly, he adapts to changing conditions, he improvises under pressure. The Penn kill with Saxon, the Doakes headbutt, the Speltzer cemetery ambush, these are all examples of tactical intelligence at work. He assesses a situation, identifies the best move, and executes with precision. This tactical skill is a direct product of his training. Harry Morgan was a cop. He thought like a cop. He trained Dexter to think like an investigator, because understanding how investigators work is the single best way to avoid being caught by one. And Evelyn Vogel, the psychologist who helped design the code, understood the predatory mind. Between the two of them, they essentially trained Dexter to be a counter-forensic specialist, someone who understands the tools of detection well enough to operate beneath them. The second major component is psychological insight. This one is interesting because Dexter claims to have no empathy. He says he fakes all human interactions. He describes himself as having a hollow place where emotion should be. And yet, he is remarkably good at reading people. He can predict behavior, he can identify vulnerabilities, he can tell when someone is lying, when they are scared, when they are bluffing, and when they are about to break. He manipulates trained detectives, experienced killers, and professional psychologists without them realizing it. How does someone with no empathy understand human psychology so well? I think the answer is that Dexter's understanding of people is not emotional, it is analytical. He does not feel what other people feel. He observes what they do and maps patterns. He has spent his entire life studying human behavior from the outside, like an anthropologist living among a foreign culture. He knows the rules of social interaction not because they come naturally to him, but because he has spent decades memorizing them. And because he is observing from outside the emotional system, he can sometimes see things that people inside the system miss. He notices inconsistencies in behavior. He spots deception. He identifies motivations that people are trying to hide. Think about it this way. If you are playing a card game and you are deeply invested in the outcome, your emotions can cloud your judgment. You get excited when you have a good hand. You get nervous when you are bluffing. But if you are watching the game from outside, with no stake in the outcome, you can see the patterns more clearly. You can read the other players without being distracted by your own feelings. That is Dexter's advantage in social situations. He is always the observer, never the participant, at least not emotionally. This is what allows him to fool Arthur Mitchell for weeks. Arthur is a seasoned predator. He has been reading people and manipulating them for 30 years. But Dexter is not sending the emotional signals that Arthur is calibrated to detect. Dexter's mask is not covering up fear or excitement. It is covering up nothing. And that emptiness, paradoxically, makes it more convincing. There is no tell because there is nothing underneath to create one. The third component is procedural knowledge. Dexter knows how forensic investigations work, down to the granular level. He knows what gets tested and what gets overlooked. He knows how long it takes to process DNA. He knows which evidence is prioritized and which gets filed away. He knows the chain of custody requirements. He knows which databases are checked and which are not. This knowledge allows him to do something that most people cannot. He can think like the investigation and then place himself outside of it. Every kill Dexter performs is essentially a reverse-engineered crime scene. He starts with the question, what would a forensic team look for at this scene? And then he systematically eliminates every piece of evidence they would find. The plastic wrap catches blood, hair, fibers, and skin cells. The M99 injection is a clean sedative that metabolizes quickly. The dismemberment and ocean disposal eliminate the body. The routine of wiping down surfaces, burning clothing, and cleaning tools eliminates trace evidence. Each step is a direct response to a specific forensic technique. But here's the thing that makes Dexter's procedural knowledge really dangerous. It is not static. It evolves. When the Bay Harbor Butcher investigation in Season 2 exposes his underwater dump site, Dexter switches to the Gulf Stream method. When the blood slides become a liability, he burns them in the crematorium. When the code itself causes problems, as it did with the Trinity killer, Dexter adjusts his approach to future targets. He is not just following a playbook, he is updating the playbook in real time based on new information and new threats. Now let us talk about the limits, because every form of intelligence has limits, and Dexter's are significant. The biggest one is emotional intelligence, not in the sense of reading other people, which he is good at, but in the sense of understanding and managing his own emotions. Dexter claims to have none, but the show repeatedly demonstrates that this is not true. He cares about Deborah, he cares about Rita, he cares about Harrison. He develops feelings for Hannah McKay. He feels guilt about what happened to Doakes. He mourns Harry. These emotions exist. They are real. And Dexter does not know how to process them because the code does not have a module for feelings. This is what gets him into trouble every time. With Trinity, it was admiration and curiosity that made him hesitate. With Miguel Prado, it was loneliness and the desire for a partner. With Hannah McKay, it was attraction and something approaching love. With Deborah, it was familial attachment that led to impossible choices. Every major failure in Dexter's life can be traced back to an emotional decision that overrode the code. Harry himself is the ultimate example. The man who designed the code could not live with its results. When he walked in on Dexter dismembering a body and really saw what his creation had become, he killed himself. The code was intellectually sound. The code was operationally brilliant, but it could not survive contact with the emotional reality of what it produced. There is a fascinating conversation that Dexter has with a vision of Harry later in the series, where they discuss the dark passenger. Harry asks Dexter where the concept came from. Dexter says he thought he got it from Harry, but Harry says he gave Dexter the code. The dark passenger was all Dexter's invention. Harry says he meant that Dexter was traumatized, not possessed. But Dexter had reframed his urges as a separate entity, a passenger riding along rather than something that was fundamentally part of himself. Harry suggests that maybe the dark passenger is just a feeling. And Dexter resists this, because if there is no dark passenger, then he is responsible for everything he has done. It is much simpler, much safer, to pin the blame on something else, on an external force that is driving him rather than a choice he is making. I think this might be the most psychologically honest moment in the entire series, because it strips away all the tactical genius, all the forensic expertise, all the strategic brilliance, and asks a simple question: is Dexter intelligent enough to understand himself? And the answer, at least at that point, is no. He can outsmart the FBI. He can frame a decorated police officer. He can maintain a double life inside a police department for over a decade. But he cannot look at his own nature honestly. He needs the fiction of the dark passenger to function. He needs to believe that his urges are something done to him rather than something that is him. Whether this changes by the end of the series is a question that the franchise is still exploring. Dexter. Resurrection, the newest installment, picks up after the events of New Blood, and Dexter is alive. He is in New York City. He is still killing. The code is still active. And the question of whether Dexter can truly understand himself remains open. There is one more piece of context I want to add here, and it is about how realistic Dexter's forensic work actually is. I mentioned this briefly earlier, but it is worth expanding on. Blood spatter analysis, Dexter's specialty, has been the subject of serious criticism in real forensic science. The Innocence Project, an organization that works to exonerate wrongfully convicted people, has highlighted that blood pattern analysis is often more subjective than scientific. Analysts can look at the same pattern and reach different conclusions. The 2009 National Academy of Sciences report found huge uncertainties in the field. There have been cases where blood spatter testimony contributed to wrongful convictions. In the world of the show, Dexter's analysis is treated as near perfect. When he says the blood tells a story, his colleagues accept it. His reports carry weight in court. His interpretations drive investigations. But in the real world, the foundation he is standing on is much less solid than the show suggests. I am not saying this to undermine the character. I just find it fascinating that one of television's greatest geniuses built his empire on a discipline that real scientists would call unreliable. Understanding how Dexter's mind works, its strengths, and its blind spots makes the next chapter even more interesting, because we get to see that same mind applied in completely new circumstances, a new identity, a new city, and a new set of threats. After the original series ended in 2013, there was roughly a decade of silence. The last image audiences had of Dexter Morgan was a bearded man sitting alone in a cabin somewhere in the Pacific Northwest, working as a lumberjack. He had faked his own death by driving his boat into an approaching hurricane. He had sent Hannah and Harrison to Argentina. He had unplugged his sister Deborah from life support after she suffered a fatal stroke caused by a gunshot wound from Oliver Saxon. He had carried her body out to his boat and dropped her into the ocean. And then he had sailed into the storm, presumably to die. But Dexter did not die. He washed up somewhere and started over, again. And in 2021, the show came back with Dexter, New Blood, set roughly 10 years after the original finale. Dexter is now living in the small town of Iron Lake, New York, under the alias Jim Lindsay. He works at a local fish and game store called Fred's Fish and Game. He has a girlfriend named Angela who happens to be the town's chief of police. He bowls, he brings pastries to work, he adjusts the knife displays in the store window. He appears in every way to be a quiet, unremarkable, small-town guy. And here is what I find genuinely impressive about this period. For roughly a decade, Dexter suppressed his killing urges entirely. No kills, no dark passenger, no ritual, just silence. He maintained the Jim Lindsay identity so convincingly that nobody in Iron Lake had any reason to suspect him of anything. He integrated into a small community, which is actually harder than hiding in a big city. In Miami, you can be anonymous. In a town like Iron Lake, everyone knows everyone. People notice things, they talk, they ask questions. And Dexter navigated all of that for years. The way he handles the early episodes of New Blood shows that the intelligence has not faded. When he arrives at work, he is immediately engaged with the community. He chats with the cops at the station during his lunch break, gathering information casually about who is in trouble, who has a record, what cases Angela is working on. He does the same thing he did at Miami Metro. He positions himself inside the information flow without anyone realizing it. He is not investigating anything. He is just a friendly local guy who gets along with the police. But every conversation is intelligence collection. When Matt Caldwell comes into the store to buy a rifle, Dexter processes everything about him instantly. Matt is arrogant, entitled, and he gets flagged in the FBI background check. Dexter later learns from the officers that Matt was involved in a boating crash that killed 5 people and has multiple incidents on his record. The code starts humming. Matt Caldwell is exactly the kind of person Harry trained Dexter to identify. Privileged, dangerous, protected by money and connections, and very unlikely to ever face justice through the legal system. Dexter does eventually kill Matt, and then the real intelligence test begins. Because in Miami, disposing of a body was relatively straightforward. A city of millions, an ocean right there, a boat he owned, a graveyard he had been using for years. In Iron Lake, none of that infrastructure exists. There is snow on the ground, there are limited disposal options, and Matt's father, Kurt Caldwell, is one of the most powerful men in town. Matt's disappearance is going to be noticed, immediately. Dexter dismembers Matt's body and hides the pieces in garbage bags under his own fire pit. This is bold, dangerously bold. Because the next morning, Angela sets up a search party on Dexter's property. Officers are sitting around the fire pit, cooking breakfast, completely unaware that they are literally sitting on top of the victim. Dexter stands there watching, outwardly calm, inwardly calculating. He brings them coffee and breakfast. He acts like a helpful neighbor, and nobody suspects a thing. The next several episodes are a masterclass in improvisation. Dexter has to manage the investigation, manage his newly arrived son Harrison, who has tracked him down from Argentina, manage Angela's growing suspicions about his identity, and manage Kurt Caldwell, who Dexter begins to suspect is himself a serial killer. The number of parallel threats he is handling simultaneously is reminiscent of Season 7, except now he does not have the resources of Miami Metro. He does not have a forensic lab. He does not have a boat. He does not have police database access. He is operating with almost nothing. There is a wonderful moment early in the season when a crime scene investigator named Damian Church arrives from Albany to examine the area where Matt disappeared. Dexter volunteers to watch, telling Damian he is a big fan of those crime shows on TV. He plays dumb, he pretends to be fascinated by basic forensic procedures, and then he privately notes that Damian is doing exactly what he himself would have done if their roles were reversed. Damian is actually quite competent, which makes Dexter nervous. But by playing the role of a curious civilian, Dexter puts himself right at the edge of the investigation without triggering suspicion. Dexter also recognizes Kurt Caldwell as a serial killer long before anyone else does. When Molly Park, a true crime podcaster, is invited by Kurt to his remote cabin under the pretense of interviewing Matt, Dexter follows them. He notes how isolated the cabin is. He sees that the door only locks from the outside. He spots a hidden camera, and he thinks to himself, this is serial killer 101. His pattern recognition, honed by decades of studying killers while being one, allows him to identify Kurt's setup immediately. The most impressive strategic play in New Blood is the Kurt Caldwell endgame. Dexter and Harrison discover Kurt's underground bunker where he has been preserving the bodies of his victims, 30 women perfectly preserved as trophies. Dexter triggers the alert system intentionally, letting Kurt know his hiding spot has been found. This forces Kurt to flee, and while Kurt is packing money and weapons and preparing to run, Dexter and Harrison intercept him. They inject him with a sedative. They bring his body back to his own underground unit next to his own victims. They strap him to his own surgical table. Kurt wakes up and sees Dexter standing over him. He admits to the murders, claiming he saved the women because they were just runaways. Kurt tells Harrison that Dexter killed Matt, trying to turn father and son against each other. But it does not work. Dexter kills Kurt. He dismembers the body. And then he tells Harrison that it will look like Kurt ran because he packed his bags and emptied his safe. The evidence supports the narrative of a guilty man fleeing. That is, elegant problem solving. Dexter takes a serial killer with 30 victims hidden underground, eliminates him, and creates a story that accounts for both Kurt's disappearance and the discovery of his crimes. The bodies are there. The evidence is there. Kurt is gone. It writes itself. No loose ends. But New Blood also shows where Dexter's intelligence finally fails. Angela, his girlfriend and the chief of police, starts putting pieces together. She discovers his real identity. She finds connections between the ketamine he purchased and the injection marks on some local drug dealers. She listens to Molly Park's podcast about the Bay Harbor Butcher and notices similarities. And unlike LaGuerta, who was working against an established official narrative, Angela is starting from scratch with fresh eyes. She has no institutional loyalty to the Doakes as Butcher story. She just follows the evidence. Dexter gets arrested. He is charged with the murder of Matt Caldwell, and in the interrogation room, he does what he always does. He offers an alternative narrative. He suggests Kurt framed him. He points out that Kurt lied about being in New York. He reminds Angela that Kurt suspiciously stripped his cabin. He is doing what he has always done, creating reasonable doubt, offering a more compelling story. And Logan, one of the officers, even says that Dexter's version is plausible. But the walls are closing in. And the show ends not with Dexter outsmarting everyone, but with his son Harrison making a choice that Dexter cannot manipulate his way out of. Harrison, having seen the reality of what his father is, picks up a rifle and shoots Dexter. The code, the system that kept Dexter alive for decades, cannot protect him from his own child's judgment. I think New Blood is interesting because it shows what happens when Dexter's intelligence is placed in a context where his usual advantages are stripped away. No lab, no database, no badge, no network of colleagues to hide behind. He is working with almost nothing, and he is still impressive. But the smaller environment, the personal relationships, the intimacy of a small town, all of it makes his usual tricks more visible. In Miami, you can disappear in the crowd. In Iron Lake, there is no crowd. Now let me briefly touch on Original Sin, the prequel series that premiered in late 2024. It is set in 1991 Miami and follows a young Dexter, played by Patrick Gibson, as he transitions from Harry's student to an active killer. What I find fascinating about Original Sin from an intelligence standpoint is that it shows the code being tested for the first time. Everything we have talked about, the kill rooms, the evidence management, the social facade, it all has to start somewhere. And in Original Sin, we see that starting point. Young Dexter starts an internship at the Miami Metro Forensics Department. He impresses Tanya Martin, a forensic expert, with his sharp mind and eye for detail. She offers him a paid position. And suddenly, the dual life begins. By day, Dexter is learning the tools that will make him uncatchable. By night, he is experiencing the urges that those tools will eventually serve. The Nurse Mary kill that I mentioned earlier in this video happens during this period. It is Dexter's first true kill under the code, and the fact that he pulls it off cleanly as a young man with no experience beyond Harry's training tells you something about the system. The code works from the very beginning. It is not something that requires decades of practice to execute. It is a framework that, when followed precisely, produces results immediately. That is the hallmark of good engineering, and that is exactly what Harry and Vogel created. The franchise continues with Dexter, Resurrection, which picks up immediately after New Blood. Dexter survived the gunshot wound from Harrison. He was resuscitated in an emergency room. He makes his way to New York City and takes on a new alias, Ronald Schmidt. He works as an car driver, the show's version of a rideshare service. And he is still killing. The code is still active. His forensic knowledge is intact. He has even retained his ability to dispose of evidence, though now he incinerates remains rather than using ocean disposal. What strikes me about Resurrection is that Dexter has now reinvented himself 3 times. Dexter Morgan in Miami, Jim Lindsay in Iron Lake, Ronald Schmidt in New York. Each time he adapts the code to a new environment, new resources, new constraints. The core intelligence, the pattern recognition, the forensic expertise, the social engineering, it all transfers. The packaging changes, the system remains. And that, I think, is the ultimate testament to Dexter Morgan's intelligence. It is not about any single moment or any single kill. It is about the system. The code is a living, evolving framework that adapts to new threats, learns from mistakes, and survives in environments it was never designed for. Harry Morgan built it for a teenager in Miami in the 1980s. And it is still running, still producing results, decades later in a completely different world. Before we start winding down, I want to go deeper into some moments that I touched on earlier but did not fully explore, plus a few that I have not mentioned at all. Because there are dozens of small genius moments scattered across the series that are worth your time, especially if you are settling in and have nowhere to be, which I assume you do not since you are listening to this. Let me talk about the cruise ship kill from Season 3, because it is one of the more creative setups in the entire series, and Showtime specifically highlighted it on their official list. There is a man who murdered his 2 previous wives and got away with it both times. He is about to remarry. And Dexter identifies him, confirms his guilt, and realizes that the best opportunity to take him out is on a cruise ship. The logistics of this are fascinating if you think about them. A cruise ship is a controlled environment. There are cameras, there are crew members, there are thousands of passengers, and the body has to disappear. Dexter manages all of this. He kills the man aboard the ship and presumably disposes of the body in the ocean, which is poetic given his usual method. The audacity of carrying out a code-compliant kill on a cruise ship surrounded by vacationing families and all-you-can-eat buffets is genuinely impressive. There is another detail from Season 4 that I want to revisit. The relationship between Dexter and Arthur Mitchell contains a moment that I think shows Dexter's intelligence in a way that is easy to miss. At one point, Arthur's son is showing signs of the same kind of controlled, fearful behavior that you see in children living with an abusive parent. The son is beaten down, emotionally flattened, obedient in a way that goes beyond normal respect. And Dexter notices this. He reads the family dynamic with a clinical precision that even Arthur's neighbors and church friends have missed for decades. Dexter does not just see Arthur the serial killer, he sees Arthur the father, the husband, the community leader. And he sees through all of it. He recognizes the pattern of control because he understands control. He lives inside a system of control. The code itself is a form of control. And that shared framework allows Dexter to see what Arthur is doing to his family in a way that nobody else in Arthur's life has ever seen. I think this is one of the most underrated displays of intelligence in the series. It is not a kill. It is not a scheme. It is just perception. The ability to look at a seemingly normal family and immediately identify the architecture of abuse. Speaking of families, let us talk about Harrison for a moment. Not the New Blood Harrison, who is a teenager, but baby Harrison from the original series. There is a small but meaningful moment in Season 8 where Harrison has a toy dog that Dexter had told him was lost. The toy actually has bloodstains on it, linking Dexter to a murder. But Harrison pulls the toy out and accuses Dexter of lying. Dexter admits he lied and apologizes. And instead of taking the toy away or making a scene, he lets Harrison keep it on the condition that it lives under the bed. It is a small moment of parenting that mirrors Harry's approach with young Dexter. recognizing the behavior, addressing it calmly, setting a boundary, not punishing, but guiding. The code in miniature being passed down to the next generation, whether Dexter intended that or not. I also want to talk about Dexter's relationship with Zach Hamilton in Season 8, because it is one of the more interesting dynamics in the later seasons. Zach is a young man from a wealthy family who has started killing. His first victim was his father's mistress. He killed her to protect his mother, who was drinking herself to death because of the father's infidelity. When the father just found a new mistress 2 days later, Zach decided to kill the father instead. Dexter captures Zach. He sets up a kill room. He straps him down, and then he does something unexpected. He talks to him. He asks Zach why he was going to kill his father. Zach eventually confesses that the killing urge has been building for years. He says he cannot help it. He describes the feeling as the release of something horrible inside him. And then Zach says something that stops Dexter cold. He tells Dexter to kill him because he will not be able to stop himself from killing again. Dexter realizes that Zach never had a Harry. Nobody trained him. Nobody gave him a code. Nobody showed him how to channel the urges or identify appropriate targets. And instead of killing Zach, Dexter cuts him loose. He decides to become Zach's Harry to teach him the code. To do for Zach what was done for him. This is not just a generous act, it is a strategic one. An untrained killer with Zach's urges is a ticking time bomb. He will eventually get caught, and when he does, the investigation could lead back to Dexter. By training Zach, Dexter is not just helping him. He is creating a controlled variable in an otherwise chaotic situation. It is the same thinking that led Harry to create the code in the first place. If you cannot stop the behavior, you can at least direct it. Let me also circle back to Deborah's role in all of this, because she is honestly one of the most tragic characters in television history, and her relationship with Dexter's intelligence is complicated and heartbreaking. Deborah Morgan is a good cop, a really good cop. She rises from vice to homicide to lieutenant. She earns respect. She works hard. And for the first 6 seasons of the show, she has no idea that her brother is a serial killer. She lives with him. She eats dinner with him. She calls him in the middle of the night when she is upset, and she never sees it. Part of that is Dexter's skill. His facade is that good. But part of it, I think, is that Deborah trusts him in a way that goes beyond professional observation. He is her brother, the person who was there for her when their father died, when their mother was long gone, when boyfriends turned out to be serial killers. He was the constant. And when you trust someone that completely, you stop looking for the signs. You explain away the late nights, the blood on his clothes, the excuses that do not quite add up. You file them under, that is just Dexter being Dexter. When she finally discovers the truth in the season 6 finale, walking into that church and seeing Dexter plunging a knife into Travis Marshall, her world shatters. And what follows across season 7 and 8 is a slow, agonizing breakdown. She tries to control Dexter, she tries to rehabilitate him, she tries to integrate his killing into her worldview. And it destroys her. She ends up shooting LaGuerta, she ends up drinking, she ends up questioning everything she ever believed about justice, family, and herself. Dexter's intelligence created a mask so perfect that it fooled the person closest to him for 20 years. And when that mask finally cracked, the person who paid the highest price was not Dexter. It was Deborah. I think that says something profound about the nature of deception. The deceiver moves on. The deceived are the ones who carry the weight. There are a few more small details I want to mention because I think they are interesting enough to share, and they show how deep the show's attention to Dexter's methodology goes. First, Dexter's choice of boat name, the slice of life. It is a pun. A slice of life is an idiom meaning a realistic representation of everyday experience. But for Dexter, slice has a very different meaning. The boat that he uses to transport and dispose of dismembered bodies is named after the act of cutting into something. And nobody blinks at the name because they hear the innocent meaning. It is the perfect example of Dexter hiding in plain sight. His secret is literally printed on the side of his boat, and nobody reads it correctly. Second, the air conditioning unit. Dexter hides his bloodslide collection inside the casing of his apartment's AC unit. This is clever for multiple reasons. An AC unit is a piece of machinery that most people never open unless it is broken. It is in every apartment, so it does not look unusual. and if anyone ever did open it for maintenance, the blood slides are small enough and stored in a compact enough box that they could be easily moved beforehand. Dexter chose a hiding spot that is accessible to him, invisible to others, and has a built-in explanation for being there. Third, the way Dexter keeps track of potential targets is worth noting. He does not have a list taped to his wall. He does not keep files on his computer. Instead, he pays attention. He listens at work. He reads court transcripts. He attends hearings. He watches the news. He follows cases that end in acquittals or drop charges. His target acquisition is entirely passive. It requires no paper trail, no digital footprint, nothing that could be discovered in a search. The targets come to him through the normal course of his work and his attention to the world around him. It is like fishing. He does not chase the fish. He puts himself in the right spot and lets them come to him. Fourth, and this is one I really like, Dexter uses the forensic language of his profession as a kind of poetry. There's a moment in season 7 where he meets with the journalist Sal Price for an interview. And Dexter opens with this line. He says, as a blood spatter analyst, I am kind of a storyteller myself. The only difference between us is your medium is ink and mine is blood. It sounds casual, friendly, like a self-deprecating joke. But it is actually one of the most honest things Dexter has ever said. He is a storyteller. Every crime scene he creates, every kill he stages, every piece of evidence he plants is a story, a narrative designed to lead investigators to a specific conclusion. Dexter does not just commit murder, he authors it. And fifth, the way Dexter adapts his disposal methods over the course of the series is a timeline of evolving intelligence. Season 1 through early Season 2, standard ocean trench disposal with weighted garbage bags. After the Bay Harbor butcher discovery in Season 2, switch to Gulf Stream disposal, no weights needed. Season 7, cremation of Speltzer, destroying physical trophies. New Blood, local incinerator in Iron Lake. Resurrection, continued incineration in New York City. Each adaptation is a response to a specific vulnerability that was exposed. Dexter does not make the same mistake twice, and that, more than any single brilliant moment, is what makes him truly dangerous. I want to take a moment here to appreciate the sheer longevity of what Dexter accomplished. From his first kill as a young man in the early 90s, as shown in Original Sin, through his years as the Bay Harbor butcher in Miami, through his decade of dormancy in Iron Lake, to his current activities in New York, Dexter Morgan has been either actively killing or successfully suppressing the urge to kill for over 3 decades. During that time, he has lived in 3 different cities under 3 different identities. He has worked 4 different jobs. He has had multiple romantic relationships. He has raised a child. He has survived an FBI investigation, multiple serial killer antagonists, the discovery of his secret by his sister, his girlfriend, and his son, and a literal hurricane. And through all of it, the system holds, not perfectly, not without cost. Rita is dead, Deborah is dead, LaGuerta is dead, Doakes is dead. Countless lives have been destroyed directly or indirectly by Dexter's existence. But the code, the framework, that Harry and Vogel designed for a traumatized 3-year-old in the 1970s continues to function in the 2020s. That is not just intelligence, that is engineering. We are in the final stretch now, so let me slow things down a bit and just talk about what all of this means. We have gone through 10 chapters of specific moments, schemes, kills, and adaptations. We have looked at Dexter's tactical intelligence, his forensic expertise, his social engineering, his emotional blind spots, and his ability to reinvent himself across decades and identities. But I think there is a bigger picture here that is worth putting into words before we wrap up for the night. Dexter Morgan is one of the most interesting characters in television history because he forces you to think about intelligence differently. We tend to associate intelligence with good outcomes. Smart people make good decisions, smart people succeed, smart people win. But Dexter complicates that. He is undeniably intelligent. Everything we have talked about tonight proves that. But is his life a success? Has his intelligence actually served him well? Think about what Dexter has lost. His mother was murdered when he was 3. His biological brother became a serial killer that Dexter himself had to execute. His adoptive father, the man who designed the code, killed himself because he could not live with the consequences of his own creation. His wife Rita was murdered by Arthur Mitchell. because Dexter hesitated when the code said to act. His sister Deborah was shot and died from complications after Dexter's secret had already shattered her sense of self, her peace of mind, and her moral compass. His son Harrison grew up in foster care, abandoned by a father who believed his own darkness was contagious. And now, in Resurrection, Dexter is living under yet another alias in yet another city, still killing, still running, still alone. That is the cost of the code. It keeps Dexter alive. It keeps him free. But it does not make him happy. It does not give him peace. It does not build lasting relationships or create a life worth living. It is a survival tool masquerading as a life strategy. And every person who gets close enough to see the real Dexter is either destroyed by the knowledge or forced into complicity. I think about Harry a lot when I consider this. Harry Morgan is a fascinating character because he is simultaneously the best and worst thing that ever happened to Dexter. Without Harry, Dexter would have been institutionalized or executed. The code saved his life in the most literal sense, but the code also guaranteed that Dexter would never have a normal life. It channeled his urges, but it also locked them in place. By giving Dexter a structured way to kill, Harry ensured that killing would always be part of his identity. There was no off-ramp, no exit strategy. The code does not have a retirement clause. It does not say once you reach a certain age, you can stop. It is a life sentence disguised as a gift. And Harry himself could not handle the reality of what he created. When he saw Dexter with a dismembered body, he was confronted with the tangible evidence of his own creation. The code was no longer an idea. It was blood on plastic. It was a body in pieces, and Harry's response was to die, to remove himself from the equation rather than face what he had done. That is a devastating commentary on the limits of good intentions. Harry genuinely loved Dexter. He genuinely wanted to protect him. And the system he built to do that was brilliant, but it was also monstrous. And Harry could not reconcile those two truths. Evelyn Vogel faces a similar reckoning in Season 8. She helped design the code. She told Harry that Dexter's urges could not be stopped, only focused. She framed the code as salvation, not imprisonment. But when she meets the adult Dexter and sees what the code has produced, she is forced to confront the same uncomfortable truth that Harry could not survive. She helped create a serial killer, a highly functional, highly intelligent, code-compliant serial killer, but a serial killer nonetheless. What makes this so interesting from a storytelling perspective is that the show never fully resolves the question, is the code good? Is it bad? Is Dexter a hero or a villain? The show presents arguments for both sides and lets you decide. If you focus on the victims, the murderers who escaped justice and would have killed again, Dexter is arguably a net positive for society. If you focus on the collateral damage, the innocent people who died or were destroyed because of Dexter's double life, he is a catastrophe. And his intelligence sits right at the center of that ambiguity, because it is his intelligence that makes both outcomes possible. Without his tactical brilliance, he would have been caught immediately, and the question would never arise. Without his forensic expertise, he could not have identified and confirmed the guilt of his targets, which means the moral justification for the code would not hold. Without his social engineering, he could not have maintained the relationships and professional standing that kept him invisible. Every component of his intelligence serves the code. And the code, for better or worse, is the thing that keeps the entire moral engine running. I think this is why Dexter endures as a character. It has been almost 20 years since the show premiered, and people are still watching, still debating, still making 2-hour videos about it. Because the central question, the one the show poses in every single episode, is genuinely hard. Can intelligence be used for good even when the person wielding it is, by most conventional measures, a monster? Can a system designed to channel violence into vigilantism be considered moral? And if the answer is no, what should have been done with Dexter instead? The show does not answer these questions, it just keeps asking them. Season after season, incarnation after incarnation. And that, maybe more than anything, is the smartest thing about Dexter. Not any individual moment, not any specific kill, but the question itself, a question that a traumatized 3-year-old boy sitting in his dead mother's blood could never have asked, but that a man with his intelligence would spend the rest of his life trying to answer. Let me give you a few final details that I think round out the picture nicely. The Dexter franchise began in 2006 based on characters created by novelist Jeff Lindsay. The first season was adapted from his 2004 novel Darkly Dreaming Dexter, though subsequent seasons diverged entirely from the books. The show aired on Showtime for 8 seasons through 2013. It came back with New Blood in 2021. Original Sin premiered in December 2024, a prequel set in 1991 with Patrick Gibson playing young Dexter and Michael C. Hall providing voiceover narration. And Resurrection, the newest installment, is currently airing with Hall back in the title role and a cast that includes Uma Thurman and Peter Dinklage. Michael C. Hall's performance across all of these projects is, I think, one of the great achievements in television acting. He won a Golden Globe for the role. He performed it for the better part of 2 decades. And he made Dexter feel real in a way that most fictional serial killers never do. There is a restraint to his performance, a quietness. You can watch him think. You can watch him process. You can see the mask go on and the mask come off, sometimes in the same scene. And that performance is the reason the character works as well as he does. Without Hall's intelligence as an actor, Dexter's intelligence as a character would not be convincing. The show itself has had a significant cultural impact. It was at one point described as the most rented box set in Netflix history before moving to Paramount Plus with Showtime. During the 2007 to 2008 writer's strike, edited reruns of Season 1 were broadcast on CBS, one of the few times premium cable content crossed over to a free broadcast network. Those CBS versions were heavily censored, cutting graphic content and language to achieve a TV-14 rating. The Parents Television Council protested the decision, and in the real world, the show has been referenced in actual criminal cases. The character has been cited in court proceedings where defendants displayed similar behaviors or cited the show as influence. I mention this not to sensationalize, but because it underscores something important. Fiction has consequences. The way we tell stories about intelligence and violence shapes how people think about intelligence and violence. Dexter is a brilliantly written character, but he is also a character who normalizes a very specific kind of horror by wrapping it in competence and moral justification. That is worth thinking about, even if it is not the kind of thought you want to have at 2 a.m. But I do not want to end on a heavy note, because at its core, Dexter is a show about a guy who is really, really good at his job. Both of his jobs, actually. He is a great forensic analyst, and he is a great serial killer. And the show's genius, the show's real intelligence, is that it makes you root for someone who should terrify you. It makes you hold your breath when Doakes gets too close. It makes you fist pump when the Skinner frame works on Miguel. It makes you feel relief when the FBI buys the Doakes as Butcher story. You're not supposed to be rooting for this guy, but you are. And the reason you are is because his intelligence makes him feel like someone you want to see succeed. That is the magic trick. And it is probably the smartest thing about the entire franchise. Now, before I wrap up, let me mention something for those of you who have stuck around this long. I am planning to do more deep dives like this. There is so much more Dexter content to cover. We could do a whole video on the villains, the big bads of each season, and how they each challenged Dexter in different ways. We could do one on the emotional moments, the times Dexter felt something real despite claiming to be empty. We could do one on his biggest mistakes, the plays that went wrong, the decisions that cost him. And honestly, we could do a whole video just on Deborah because her arc is one of the most complex in the entire show and she deserves more attention than she usually gets. If any of that sounds interesting, and if you enjoyed tonight, a subscribe would really help me know to keep making this kind of content. But no pressure. The video is the video, and I hope you got something out of it either way. And that is where we will leave it for tonight. 2 hours of Dexter Morgan at his sharpest. The forensic plays, the social engineering, the impossible framings, the quiet moments where his mind was just working faster than everyone else in the room. What always gets me about Dexter is that his intelligence is not the flashy kind. He is not giving monologues about how smart he is while a camera circles around him. He is just doing the work. Reading the room, adjusting the plan, staying invisible inside a building full of people whose entire job is finding people like him. The code is a remarkable piece of engineering. Flawed, yes. Tragic, absolutely, but remarkable. And the mind that runs it, the mind that adapted it and evolved it and carried it across 3 decades and 3 cities and 3 identities, is one of the most compelling in all of fiction. sleep well, and remember, do not get caught. Actually, before I close out, there are a few more things I want to talk about because I think they are genuinely interesting and they fit perfectly with what we have been discussing tonight. Consider this the bonus round for those of you who are still awake. And if you have already drifted off, do not worry. This will be here if you ever come back to it. I want to talk about something that does not get discussed enough, which is Dexter's relationship with other serial killers throughout the series and what it reveals about his intelligence. Because one of the most fascinating patterns in the show is how Dexter consistently identifies, understands, and outmaneuvers people who are, in theory, his equals. These are not ordinary criminals. These are people who have been successfully hiding their own double lives for years or decades, and Dexter dismantles them almost every time. In Season 1, the ice truck killer, who turns out to be Dexter's biological brother Brian Moser, is a sophisticated killer who drains bodies of blood, dismembers them with surgical precision, and displays the parts in public locations. He is taunting Dexter specifically, leaving him messages only he would understand. And for a while, Brian is ahead of Dexter. He infiltrates Dexter's life by dating Deborah. He gets close enough to the family to be a genuine threat. But ultimately, Dexter figures out the connection, discovers Brian's identity, and makes the impossible choice to kill his own brother to protect his sister. Brian was clever, Brian was personal, but Dexter outplayed him when it mattered. In Season 5, after Rita's death, Dexter encounters the Barrel Girl Gang, a group of men who kidnapped and tortured women. The leader, Jordan Chase, is a motivational speaker, a public figure who operates in plain sight. Chase is a manipulator who uses charisma and influence to control his group. And Dexter, working with Lumen Pierce, picks the group apart one by one. He uses the same methodical approach he always does. Identify the members, confirm their guilt, isolate them, eliminate them. The fact that the target is not a single person but an organized group does not change his methodology. He simply applies the code multiple times. In Season 6, the Doomsday Killer appears to be two people working together, Travis Marshall and Professor James Geller. The tableaus are elaborate, theatrical, and deeply rooted in religious symbolism. They are the most visually dramatic kills in the series. But here's the twist. Geller is already dead. He has been dead the entire time. Travis is doing everything himself, hallucinating Geller as a guiding voice, much like Dexter hallucinates Harry. When Dexter discovers this, he is looking at a mirror image of himself, a killer guided by a dead man's voice, a man who cannot distinguish between his own impulses and the influence of someone who no longer exists. The parallels are uncomfortable. And Dexter's ability to see through the doomsday illusion, to understand that Travis is operating alone, comes from recognizing patterns that he lives with every day. In Season 5, there is also the character of Liddy, a corrupt former cop turned private investigator who is hired by Quinn to surveil Dexter. Liddy is not a serial killer, but he is a persistent and dangerous threat. He sets up cameras, he records footage, he starts building a case that could expose Dexter entirely. And Dexter has to manage this threat while simultaneously dealing with the Barrel Girl Gang, his grief over Rita, his new partnership with Lumen, and his responsibilities as a father to Harrison. The fact that he neutralizes Liddy, protects Quinn from the fallout, and continues his campaign against the rape gang all at the same time is one of the best examples of his ability to handle multiple simultaneous threats. What I find consistent across all of these encounters is that Dexter's advantage is never physical. He is not the strongest person in the room. He is not a trained fighter like Doakes. He is not imposing like Speltzer. He does not have the resources of someone like Jordan Chase. His advantage is always informational. He knows more than his opponents. He sees the pattern before they do. He understands their methodology because he has one of his own. And he uses that understanding to predict their behavior, anticipate their moves, and position himself in the place where they are most vulnerable. This is what tactical intelligence looks like in practice. It is not about being smarter in some abstract IQ test sense. It is about applying the right knowledge at the right time in the right context. Dexter's knowledge of forensics, of criminal behavior, of police procedure, of human psychology, of his own limitations, all of it feeds into a single integrated system that allows him to make better decisions than the people around him. Not always, not perfectly, but consistently enough to survive for 3 decades. I also want to spend a moment on the relationship between Dexter and Miami itself. Because the city is not just a backdrop, it is part of the system. Miami is a city of surfaces, beautiful beaches, Art Deco architecture, pastel colors, and sunshine. And underneath all of that, violence, corruption, drugs, and crime. Dexter fits Miami perfectly because Miami is, in a way, doing the same thing he is, presenting a beautiful surface while hiding something darker underneath. The show uses this parallel constantly. The opening credits show Dexter performing his morning routine, making breakfast, getting dressed, driving to work, and every mundane activity is shot to look faintly sinister. Slicing a piece of ham looks like cutting flesh. Pulling on a shirt looks like pulling on a disguise. Tying shoes looks like tying restraints. The message is clear. The ordinary and the monstrous coexist. They always have. And this is reflected in Dexter's workplace. Miami Metro Homicide is a department full of good people who are genuinely trying to solve murders and protect the public. Deborah, Batista, Masuka, Quinn, LaGuerta, they are all, with varying degrees of competence and personal baggage, trying to do the right thing. And Dexter walks among them every day, contributing to their work, helping solve cases, processing evidence that leads to real convictions, while simultaneously using that same department as a resource for his own kills. The irony is structural, and it never goes away. Batista, for example, is one of the most decent people in the entire show. He is kind, ethical, and genuinely cares about justice. He considers Dexter a friend, he invites him to family events, he trusts his forensic analysis without question. And he has no idea, not a clue. For 8 seasons, Batista works alongside a serial killer and never suspects it. When Batista learns in the New Blood era about the Bay Harbor butcher investigation being reopened, the betrayal is going to be enormous. Because Batista was not fooled by distance or indifference. He was fooled by friendship, by closeness, by the fact that Dexter was generous and helpful and seemingly kind. Masuka is similar but different. Vince Masuka is the lead forensic specialist at Miami Metro after Dexter. He is brilliant in the lab. He processes evidence that, in a just world, should have pointed to Dexter years ago. But Masuka's weakness is social, not professional. He is eccentric. He makes inappropriate jokes. He gets distracted by personal drama. And he trusts Dexter implicitly because Dexter is the one person in the lab who takes the work as seriously as he does. That professional respect blinds Masuka to what should be obvious red flags. The fact that Dexter always seems to be around when evidence goes missing. The fact that Dexter's cases sometimes have strange gaps. The fact that Dexter volunteers for overtime on cases that happen to involve his personal targets. Quinn is the most interesting case because Quinn actually suspects Dexter. In seasons 4 and 5, Quinn starts noticing things. He sees connections between Dexter and the Trinity killer case. He hires Liddy to investigate. He gets closer to the truth than almost anyone besides Doakes and LaGuerta. But Quinn is also compromised. He has his own secrets, his own rule-breaking, his own vulnerabilities. And when Dexter quietly makes Liddy's investigation go away and protects Quinn from the consequences, a silent debt is created. Quinn stops looking. Not because he is satisfied with the answers, but because pushing further would expose his own misconduct. Dexter did not have to threaten Quinn, he did not have to bribe him. He just solved a problem that Quinn could not solve himself. And the gratitude, combined with the mutual understanding that neither of them wants the full truth to come out, keeps Quinn quiet. That is the genius of the code in its social dimension. Dexter does not just hide from people, he makes them complicit. He creates situations where protecting Dexter is also protecting themselves. He builds webs of mutual dependency so subtle that the people inside them do not even realize they are trapped. Quinn will never investigate Dexter again. Not because Dexter threatened him, but because investigating Dexter would require Quinn to explain his own relationship with Liddy, which would end his career. The trap is invisible, and it holds. These are the details that, for me, elevate Dexter from a good show to a great one. It is not just about the kills, it is about the ecosystem. The network of relationships, debts, secrets, and silences that Dexter cultivates over years. Each one is a thread, and together they form a safety net so intricate that even when individual threads break, the net holds. Doakes breaks free, But the frame job catches him. LaGuerta gets close, but Deborah's loyalty stops her. Quinn suspects, but his own secrets silence him. The system is not just the code. The system is everything. And with that, I really am wrapping up. Thank you for spending this time with me tonight. Whether you were wide awake for every word or drifted off somewhere around the Trinity chapter, I appreciate you being here. This was a big one. A lot of ground to cover. But Dexter Morgan is the kind of character who deserves this level of attention. Because the deeper you look, the more you find. And the more you find, the harder it is to look away. In a future video, I am definitely going to cover more from this world. The villains deserve their own deep dive. So does Deborah's arc. So does the broader world of the show, the Miami setting, the supporting cast, the music, the visual language. There is enough here for 100 hours of discussion, and we have only scratched the surface. But for tonight, that is enough. Turn the lights off if they are still on. Close your eyes if they are still open. And let the last thing you think about before sleep be this. Somewhere out there, in a fictional version of New York City, a man named Ronald Schmidt is driving for Urquhart. He is polite, he is forgettable, he is exactly what he needs to be. And nobody in his car has any idea who is really behind the wheel. Sleep well. And remember, do not get caught. Oh, and one more thing, I almost forgot. I mentioned this at the top, but let me say it again because it is easy to miss. The original Dexter series was based on a novel by Jeff Lindsay called Darkly Dreaming Dexter, published in 2004. But after the first season, the show went in a completely different direction from the books. In the novels, Dexter's dark passenger is more literal, almost a supernatural entity rather than a psychological metaphor. And some of the later books get genuinely weird, involving cult magic and demonic possession. The show wisely kept things grounded. It treated the dark passenger as a coping mechanism, a way for Dexter to externalize his urges so he did not have to take full responsibility for them. And that choice, that decision to keep the show psychological rather than supernatural, is a huge part of why Dexter's intelligence feels real. He is not empowered by dark magic. He is not guided by mystical forces. He is just a man with a good system, a sharp mind, and the discipline to follow the rules. The fact that the show ran for 8 seasons, spawned 3 successor series, and is still generating new content 2 decades later tells you something about the strength of the concept. Dexter Morgan is a character who people want to spend time with, even when he is doing terrible things. Maybe especially when he is doing terrible things. Because watching intelligence applied with absolute precision, even toward horrifying ends, is inherently compelling. We cannot look away, we do not want to. And on that note, I will say goodnight for real this time. Thank you for listening, thank you for being here. And if you're still awake, I am genuinely impressed. Go to sleep, you have earned it. Sweet dreams. Actually, wait, I lied. One genuinely last thing because I think it is too good not to mention. The original series theme song, the one that plays over the opening credits where Dexter makes breakfast and gets dressed, was composed by a man named Rolf Kent. And that theme never changed, not once. For 8 entire seasons, from 2006 to 2013, the same macabre, playful, almost whimsical piece of music played over the same sequence of Dexter performing mundane activities that look vaguely sinister. The consistency of that opening is itself a kind of genius because it reinforces the show's central premise every single episode. This is a man who does the same things you do every morning. He makes eggs, he puts on a shirt, he ties his shoes, he drives to work, and then he kills people. The ordinariness is the horror, and the music knows it. The score for the series was composed by Daniel Licht, who created this Latin-influenced, eerie instrumental sound that became the franchise's auditory identity. Licht scored the original series, New Blood, and associated projects before his passing, after which Pat Irwin took over for Resurrection. There is something poetic about the fact that the music, like the code, was passed from one person to another. It adapted, it continued. The melody changed, but the feeling remained. I also think it is worth noting that the original series was actually broadcast on CBS during the writers' strike. Season 1 censored down to a TV-14 rating with all the graphic content removed. It is hard to imagine Dexter without the blood, without the plastic wrap, without the close-ups of slides and scalpels. But for a brief window in 2008, network television audiences got a sanitized version of Dexter Morgan, and it was one of the few times premium cable content crossed that boundary. The Parents Television Council protested, which tells you something about how provocative the show felt, even in a diluted form. The franchise was also described at one point as the most rented box set in Netflix history before it moved to Paramount Plus with Showtime. Millions of people did exactly what you're doing right now. They sat down, pressed play, and spent hours with Dexter Morgan. Some of them fell asleep, some of them stayed up all night. All of them were drawn in by the same thing: a brilliant character doing terrible things with extraordinary precision. And now, truly, finally, genuinely for real this time, good night